Ahoy, ye scurvy dogs. What is shaking? Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy, number 244. We're plugging right along, walking the plank with my co-captain here. Alan, welcome. Good day. Hope you've had a great week.
Arr. It's been fine. No, we're doing good. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Good to see folks filing in. Hello to everybody from the Discord. My wife has been monitoring your activities, shall we say, and enjoying them quite a bit. Seems like folks over on the Discord have had a lot of fun building up to this topic. And yeah, I think we'll have a great time with it all tonight, especially because we have a first-time guest that we're really excited to have on board with the rest of this mangy crew. Lee, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man.
Thank you for having me. Just, treat me gentle. I bruise easy.
I don't believe that for a second.
It'll be pretty smooth sailing, I think, tonight.
I think you Aussies are made of tougher stuff.
That's right. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's what they tell me. But hey, they caught a wallaby where I live, which is odd. They thought it was a kangaroo and turned out to be a wallaby. So I don't know how he got here, but
you had nothing to do with it. That wallaby
nothing.
luggage just happened to look like the wallaby running around.
What's that under your shirt? No, it was crazy. But,
is that a wallaby in your pants, or are you just smuggling koala bears?
I wanted to break in like the Steve Irwin, come on, crikey! Let me catch you.
Feisty one, yeah.
Look at the size of that bugger.
Well, man, it's really good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And
thank you.
For those who don't know, Lee is one of the henchmen of Fomorian Productions, which we're going to get to here in a minute. He's also the sole creator and performer for the band Warhammer666. And you know what? Warhammer666 just put out 2 EPs back to back. Limited run on these bad boys. Lee, I gotta say, for the Metal Oracle list, this project is being started in 2024, and for that short period of time, you have been quite the prolific chap. What is the inspiration behind Warhammer, and what's feeding the fire?
Good question. Well, I'm a drummer. I'm not a great drummer, but I came here and I was, got back into drumming, and I really wanted to join a band, and I headhunted a lot of people, and I even tried to weasel my way into the Ted Pooley band, the Danger singer, because my wife kind of got friendly with him, and it was one of those things where I was like just trying to. Anyway, we got invited to a party. It was just like a private party, and I got to talk to him, and soon became apparent that he had no interest in me. I don't look great in glammed. I don't look as good as a 60-year-old Ted Pooley. You know what I mean? So
there should be a cutoff time for spandex and Maybelline.
So I didn't quite fit the ticket. So I couldn't find anyone to play with, and everyone wanted to do something that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I bought a very cheap guitar, and I learned how to play it with one finger, just up and down. And I sat next to a dryer, a clothes dryer out there, and I wrote a bunch of really basic, horrible songs, and I released it. And I don't know, it just kind of, it got to some people who just talked about it, and then it was off to the races. I just kept going. And because I don't go out, I work, I come home, and I do not do anything. That was all I did. I played guitar every day. I taught myself. I still really don't know what I'm doing.
Me either.
And
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. And people come over and try to show me things, and as soon as I learn something, it ruins what I want to do. So I quickly unlearn it. And I kind of got an old computer, and I figured out how to use that. And it just didn't stop. I'm starting to slow it down now, because it's the stress, and then the Fomorian thing. It's there's too many, I guess, what's the term, fires in the whatever.
Irons in the fire. Yeah.
Irons in the fire. And it's something now where it's like, this one came out, it's like the last of the stuff which I had, which I really enjoyed doing, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. for a while. So it's just going to be more Fomorian and the metal, the Sunday, just the Shred and Toasty shows. So we're just going to concentrate solely on that for maybe a good 12 months and see how far we can drag that kicking and screaming.
Well, I got to say, for people that watch the show, they may or may not know that although I talk a lot about power metal and stuff, I do really enjoy one of my favorite forms of black metal is the more raw, stripped down. And Warhammer is definitely in that realm. There's an acidic quality to it, especially in your vocals, very caustic. But one thing that sets you a bit apart from that whole style is the fact that you employ melody quite well. I'm going to attribute that to your Kiss upbringing, but care to elaborate on that? I mean, you're writing really nasty, dissonant black metal here with these albums and EPs, but on the same token, there's hooks in there, whether you want to admit that or not.
I mean, I love burst choruses. Like I love a good chorus. I love an awesome, catchy vocal line. I grew up with the glam metal thing. I've never stopped liking it. Stopped listening to it as far as new stuff, but I never stopped liking it. Even when everyone's moved on to the heavier stuff, it still was amazing, like a major part of what I did. So I think a little bit of that, the Kiss thing too. Like I love the simple Kiss choruses. And if you can walk away and you can hum something, like that's even cooler, And the last CD that I put out through Fomorian just had like 2 really strong chorus songs, and I'm like, they're going to hate this because, black metal isn't supposed to have that. It's not supposed to have choruses. So, I really, I said, screw it. Let's just chuck it out there and see. And I'm sold out. I think Fomorian's got maybe a handful left, but it's, that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I mean, a lot of times too, I think people think of them as one-man black metal projects as always being like very lo-fi, going for the hissy, dark throne sound. Yours is really fierce, really powerful, has a really good, solid sound to it. But like Marty said, there are hooks and melodies in there too. So the songs are, a lot more instantly recognizable. It's not just a wall of sound or dissonance, which far too many projects, just kind of default to that nowadays. So
well, it's a low bar of entry, you know what I mean? Like to be a one-man black metal band, you can sound really bad and just have an aesthetic. You're going to be lost in the whole sea of this, but I mean, there's such a low bar of entry into this type of music when you think about it. You can use a drum machine, which I'm completely against. You can do all types of stuff and call it whatever you want. And black metal is no longer this little Norwegian thing. It can be, I saw something the other day where there's a black metal album about bees, and that's. But I mean, I now have to have it because it's about bees. I don't know why I need it, but
is there a buzz around it?
A buzz. So I try to set myself apart from that. If I'm not that king drum kit thing, I'm kind of happy with that.
And also, I want to talk for a second about musicians are often influenced by the scene around them. And obviously you're from Australia, recently relocated here to the US. I mean, you look at the Warhammer logo, there's a bit of a tribute to the Australian spirit there with the spiked logo and, the sadistic execution vibe. And what do you think your music, what you brought with you from Australia, and what do you think the US has done to influence you on that sonic evolution?
I don't know. I think I'm too old to, it must have done something, but that logo, it was actually, because I grew up around sadistic. Like I went to the shows, I snuck in when I was too young. Rock actually designed that for me. So nice. I contacted him, and I was like, listen, I want something that is, when you look at it, it's going to look Australian. And that's like the sadistic logo is, probably the more recognizable. So that was what I got from him. But as far as the American thing, I think, I don't know. So the Australian is very, like, unlike the South American thing where it's very mystical and it's got a lot of black magic type of stuff. Australia doesn't have we're not a religious people, we're convicts dragged from another place, and here we are, and we're just, all kind of easygoing, but we do have a vicious sense of humor, which, I try to put into
love that.
Yeah. So we try to put that into the thing. So I think that's something. But I mean, over here, I would like to think that what it has done is it's kind of opened my eyes to a lot of really cool, different type of stuff, which I wouldn't have ever listened to. And I guess that does somehow influence. I'm not quite sure how it does it, but it's very exciting. The scene over here is absolutely crazy good. Everyone's good, which sucks, but
that's kind of the way
it's
things
just
are
hard.
nowadays. Every human evolution has went to a certain level now where even the bad stuff is at least good. It's weird. It always boils down to whether you like it or not. It's the talent is weird how it's evolved over the years. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue on.
No, I mean, there's just, and then there's the people that I'm really like. I speak to people who are like, oh, they played. Like I've got a friend who does the Witching Hour show, and he went on, not in the band, but he was on tour with Judas Iscariot. Like, that blows my mind that he was in part of that.
Yeah.
And then you've got guys that, like, I had a 7-inch single back in Australia, had no idea what it is, and now I talked to him without even knowing that he was part of this. And just things like that are crazy awesome. And I ask stupid amounts of questions. I'm sure they think I'm creepy as shit, but it's just we didn't ever get this. For you guys, I guess it was kind of bands passed through your towns and whatever. Australia, we got Metallica, we got Hiss a few times, and then they stopped coming. And then the big bands, because it wasn't worth coming, or the underground stuff, we only had our own scene, which is almost runs parallel to the US scene. So when I come over here and I find like Necrovore and Imprecation and bands like that, I'm like, holy shit, this is a alternate universe to what I grew up with.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just such a huge thing, and no one knows the bands I talk about except for the biggie, the Sadistics. But yeah, it's like I'm going through my teenage years again when I got here. So it's super cool.
So, okay, we got these 2 EPs that just dropped, and before that, the Hate Crimes EP. Are you, I mean, there's a lot of material that has happened in a short period of time, really. Are you where you want to be with Warhammer stylistically?
I don't know. I've got a whole bunch of stuff. My trusty computer, I don't know if you can, you can't. But my trusty computer here, I've filled it up, and it's got another 6 things which I've written completely full, ready to go, and I'm now playing with what hasn't really been done, what I've never seen done. You know what I mean? So death metal bands do killers and monsters and different things like that. Well, I thought I was a big fan of horror growing up, and I've got 2 things which I've separated, and they sound completely different, and they just exist in the universe of that particular movie. And whether they'll ever come out or not is something which, depending on how I feel. But I guess, for 2 years, and like I'm sitting here on this show now, and this is you're one of the big boys, I guess. So I mean, it's super cool that people have picked it up, and I can sell CDs, because that's hard now. Getting someone to part with their money and take the time, and they don't have to, and there's so much choice. I guess I feel extremely lucky that I'm can
getting
do
harder too. There's so many bands, and groceries aren't getting any cheaper.
No.
Well, awesome. And Fomorian Productions, I do want to touch on that. It doesn't strike me as just a label to release a vehicle for your own releases. You're actually actively going out and searching out other talent. Again, it's hard to get a label up off the ground. What is there grassroots spirit to what you're doing? What are the plans with Fomorian? And I did put a link in the description to all of this stuff too, folks. So go check it out. And if you're a new band, maybe hit up Lee. I don't know. You guys searching actively for new talent? Yeah,
I mean, we're always looking around and seeing what's there. I mean, I've taken some chances on some bands which I only really saw and I still do, so I'll take a chance on something if I really think it's cool. And you would know better than anything, like most musicians are very eager to want to do something, very slow on the uptake of completion. So it's really frustrating, you know, when I'm sitting here going, well, I want to do something. I really want to push this forward. And I've got obviously Shred on the other side, who's the other, you know, showrunner. And I've got my wife who helps out too. And we've all got different ideas on how this should run. And it's hard to try and organize a guy, let's just say, and his music, and then he goes, there you go, and then it's like, okay, that's great, what artwork do you want? And it's just like, you know, so things like that are frustrating. But as far as what the label's done, I mean, we have the best mouthpiece in the world in Shred. Like, Shred won't stop talking if you don't shut him down. So he will talk about the bands on that label until he's blue in the face. And
that's awesome.
You know,
Cheers to Trevor.
Yeah, that's a strength, definitely. So we keep Trev. He's our secret weapon. But yeah, it's a good little side. It's a good hobby. We haven't got thousands of bucks invested into it. It funds itself. So we haven't had to dip into our own pockets for a while. And you know, we've got some cool things coming up for this year, which I'm kind of excited to do. Which is why I want to kind of shelve mine for a bit and really get in on this and make sure that everything's looks cool. And you know, because there's so many labels and they all do something different. I think with us, we've kind of just gone, it's us, it's got our name on it. But now I want to really hone in and make sure that when you pick it up, it looks like it came from us. It doesn't look like it have come from someone else. So that's the plan 2026.
Awesome. And you mentioned Shred and Toasty, of course. They all do the Mandatory Metal and Mayhem Sundays, which Alan and I have both had the pleasure of being on. Thank you again for having us.
Yep.
What was the impetus behind this? Is this just all kind of working together with Fomorian to help get the name out there and try something a little bit different?
Started like that. We wanted to just do like the Fomorian stuff and put it out. And then we find out that there's only really 4 or 5 artists. So it's kind of redundant. But the idea was like, music is, the sad truth is that if you put your song on YouTube, it's very, I mean, no one really cares. And it's like, you have a few hours to entertain people. And it's like, well, if you get bored with music, and I mean, we have bands like shows like Joe Abba, who runs his own stuff, and he's got his own set of rules and plays his specific Joe Abba music. You've got like Necron doing his thing over here. And I'm like, well, we're not going to compete with that. So let's do something completely different. And so we figured, let's make it like a Tonight Show. Like, let's try to do something like that. So we just, instead of being deep in the weeds with music and stuff, let's have 2 guys there that like it, but they're not like deep into it. So it's like, let's see it from an outsider's. It's way more approachable. It's way more fun for us to have people on, because most of the time Shred and Toast have zero idea who these people are. So it's just like, let them at it, you know, and just see what type of chaos happens. So yeah, we want to keep pushing that. Like, just have 2 hours of fun before you got to go back to work on Monday. That's it. There's nothing deeper than that. We give some shit away. People, you know, throw some money our way, and then we all go to bed and get up and think about the next show coming up. You know, there's not a lot of thought that goes in, but there is some thought.
Oh, it's fun. So, it's fun. It's a bit different too. And I did neglect to get the link to the channel in the description. I'll do that after the show tonight. So that will be there, folks. Cool. But go check out Shredbeard is the name of the channel. So you won't even need the link, but I will put it there after the show.
Yeah.
Well, really, that's it. What's something you want to promote? I know you guys got a big show coming Sunday. I think.
Yep.
Revic,
if you're in Texas.
Oh no, isn't there a show this Sunday or no?
Not this Sunday. Sorry for
the metal,
for the thing that I do.
Yeah.
yeah. No, we have a No Sleep Till Texas pregame. So we have Revic from Mordant Red, who's going to be on. And he's, instead of this poor guy, hardest working dude in the underground, he's on everyone's things. He tries to help everyone out, but we've got him in a different capacity where he's going to be your Texas tour guide. All right. So for everyone who's coming, who is just interested in having a look at it, we're going to plug him full of, you know, hey, if I want to go to a record store, where can I go when I'm in Houston? What's the best place to eat? You know, what's this? So we're just going to hit him with a bunch of stuff. And Revic's a chaotic human being as it is. So I can imagine those answers aren't going to be the typical you know, oh, you can go to such and such barbecue. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. So with Shred and Revic on the same thing, and the way that those two interact, I think it'll be highly entertaining. So yeah, it's all about So it's all about Texas and those people who are coming and what to expect if you hadn't been there the year before.
Might as well plug the show too. We should probably do it. We're talking about people don't know the show. Tell them what the show is going on next week
in Texas. Yep.
In Texas.
The Texas show the week after. Okay, so on next Saturday in Texas, if you're in the Houston area, 1810 Ojamon. It's in my phone. I don't really have to think about it. But 5 bands. You've got Mordant Red. You've got ETD, which is Eat the Decay. Really cool old school grind band, like a Terrorizer grind band, not the new crazy off the wall stuff. Luke Juarez, which my wife has been getting into. This is like a 80s synth type of dark wave thing. Hexea and the old West Coast thrash band Insecticide are playing. So it's for us it's a 2-day event. The show only goes on for the night, and before the show, which is on the Saturday, there's a heavy metal market at the venue. So that's pretty much just vendors just selling crazy amounts of records and CDs and knickknacks. So there's a metal market, and then boom, the show that night. But there's like pre-parties before the show, if you know what I mean? So it's a whole thing. It's really cool. So yeah, Texas, next Saturday night, the 17th, Houston, 1810 Ojamon. If someone's watching and I'm wrong, please put it up and correct me. Come down, please. It's $5 to get in. Like, you're never going to get any show for $5 for five.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
No. Well, awesome. Thanks for giving us an insight to your universe and what's going on. And again, everybody, links in the description for all this stuff. Please go to Bandcamp, check out Warhammer if you're into raw but catchy black metal. Awesome project for sure to go check out. Fomorian Productions as well. And we'll get the link to Shredbeard's channel up here when this is all said and done as well. So thanks again, Lee, for giving us a glimpse.
Thank you.
But Alan, why are we here today, matey?
Well, we are here to cover one of the classic German metal bands that we haven't covered before. We are going through the discography of Running Wild. The project of one, Ralph Kasparek, and a assorted crew over the years. But yeah, one of the true legacy bands out of Germany, got a very long discography. And even though they've been around for decades, I feel like there's still a band that a lot of people say, oh, I've heard of them, but I've never really checked out very much of their stuff. So hopefully tonight we can point folks in the right directions, kind of steer them towards, the good stuff, and maybe help them avoid some of the choppier waters in their catalog too.
Right on. And really, they're a band that could get an award for having the longest run of solid or excellent releases, which of course we're going to get into here. But
yep.
All right. Well, we've got a bit of swashbuckling to do here. So Lee, we're going to start off with you. We're going to start off with
cracking.
We're going to start off with the debut album, 1984's Gates to Purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like for all of you who have never seen it. Lee.
Yeah. It was an album that wasn't on Alan's 1984 Best Metal Year, if I remember correctly. But it was a shocking oversight. This is I'm going to bore you. I'll bore you with one story, and this is only because of how I found this band, and I'm sure everyone had this exact same experience. I will never give you another back in the day story after this very short one. So when you remember pre-internet, if you're as old as me and I'm 50, you'd go to a record store to buy something. You didn't have an idea what you were going to buy. You were pretty much flicking through. There was pretty much 2 ways that you bought albums, right? One was a blind buy because you liked the album cover and you liked the look of the guys on the back with the logos. And there was that other band where you knew the name, you knew the logo, but you had zero idea what this band sounded like. Running Wild was that band for us. Like, we would see in magazines, because you very little amounts of record stores that were like underground, just specialized in this type of stuff. Sometimes you got lucky, but I mean, we would see Creator logos, we would see Sodom, and would see Destruction, and not many of us had ever actually heard these bands before we saw the logos. So I'm in a record store doing my thing, looking for an album cover, and that logo, the old Running Wild logo with the weird looking pentagram, it's sung. It was like finding the Holy Grail inside, and it was a cassette, and it was like the heavens opened up, the sun, the angels sung. And it was one of those things where I grabbed it almost like I'd found something that was illegal, you know what I mean, and held it very close, and my hands are sweaty. I'm super excited. I reckon I gave a little girl scream that you did when you're a teenager, you know what I mean? Because you just don't, you're excited, but you don't want to give it in. And that was how I found Running Wild. But Running Wild to me was, with the interviews, to me, they look like a thrash band. They looked like in the same thing as Slayer and all of that. So when I first heard them, and for the longest time, I looked at Running Wild as a thrash band. And this album, looking back on it, when I re-listen to it now, it's just a big, stupid album. Like, there's these crazy songs, which I had to go back and really Google to see. But, I mean, Adrian SOS, I'm sitting there, like, he rhymed Adrian with Satan. That's the German accent, which is like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It would never work today. But when you listen to it, and then I was like, well, who is Adrian? What's that got to do with it? Then, like, I'm like, of course, that's the name of the logo, like the little mascot. But put yourself in the shoes, like, you have Eddie, I guess that's kind of a common name, and you've got this thing that looks like a pig. It's got the ears, it's in the thing. And they went, what's a good name for it? We could call him anything we want. And someone's like, Adrian. I'm like, yeah, that's metal as shit. Like, who does that? Germans do that. So this album to me is a big ball of that discovery period when, because at this point I'm still into Poison. I'm still listening to Bon Jovi and Dokken, and I've just kind of gotten my Metallicas, and I know Slayer, the first Slayer is South of Heaven, so I've got that. And so now I see this Running Wild. It's older. I'm thinking this is going to be cool as shit. And if I remember correctly, I was a little disappointed in hearing it, but it was one of those albums where you had it and no one else did. You became your popularity or whatever it was. When you showed that thing, people just gathered around to look at it. So I don't know if that was the same here, where it was just kind of hard because they weren't US either. They were coming from overseas, and it's funny. I was looking into, like, at the time, the big bands were like, Metallica had Ride the Lightning, the Power Slave was out, Defenders of the Faith, Last in Line, stuff like that. And this probably is more of like Judas Priest to me. Like, it kind of feels like old kind of Judas Priest. And even when I heard back on it, it still reminds me of maybe, I don't know, just before they changed that guitar sound to that more synthesized guitar sound. But it's such a special album, even though I don't think it's the best in their catalog. If I had to take one of their albums to a desert island, it would be this one, only due to one, the nostalgia, and the feeling I still see when I look at it. Like, it still brings a smile to my face. And to find out, like, that artwork, I think the band actually designed that, right? It was the photo that the band took. So that was kind of cool. It was kind of pop, do it yourself. And the thing sold like wildfire. I mean, it was like 20,000 units out the door in a few months, which, if you think of it in today's standards, would be that band would be on big tours at that point, And I guess if you're in a band and you didn't have any money and you were in Germany, the person who produces your album is going to be the same guy that also produces Hellhammer, and he also produces Celtic Frost, and he also produces Destruction and all that stuff. So it's like they're coming from really good stock. They have a sick album cover, and it's a big dumb stupid metal album. It's tick tick tick. It's in my collection forever. I love this album.
Right on, Alan.
All right. Yeah, all good points. Rainwall did kind of, come out of the gates and do pretty well. They had been built up a bit by Walter at Noise Records leading up to the first album. They're the only band that appeared on 2 of the first Noise compilation albums. They were on the death metal comp, of course, and the one before that, which is like a heavy. I'm blanking on the name. I just got kind of a generic looking demon guy on it. But yeah, it was the only band he put on both because they did the first one. He caught wind that, yeah, they were going to be pretty popular. So he wanted to build them up a little bit more. They had the EP come out. So yeah, he was definitely working Running Wild to be a big property for the band or for the label. And interestingly, Running Wild was one of the few bands that negotiated a pretty good contract with them too. So when they were, selling decent numbers, they actually did pretty well for themselves. Noise is kind of infamous for having given a lot of bands pretty crappy contracts that they got stuck in for a long time and didn't make much money.
Yep.
But Running Wild actually sat down with like a music lawyer who knew what they were talking about and negotiated things with Walter. He was one of the very few bands that did. So right off, and actually that went over well. You might have think, Walter Bach got, is pissed off at them or something because none of the other bands did it. He actually kind of, respected Rolf for taking the time to do that. And they understood one another, that they were going to be on kind of a level playing field here, that, Rolf wasn't going to just go along with whatever Walter Bach told him to do. And Walter Bach understood this guy has his shit together. So that's a good sign. But yeah, you get debut album, Gates to Purgatory. Just got an old CD press of it here. And it is a fantastic debut album right off the bat. Every song on it is really strong. There's really no duds on here. One thing to address is they did get lumped in with the 80s black metal scene at this time. Because yes, you have these Son of Satan as your mascot with the crazy rat pig bat looking critter there. I've talked about that in a separate video over on Let's Talk Metal. 80s black metal is a weird genre to start with because all you have to do is say the word Satan enough times and you're in the club. Doesn't matter what the hell you sound like. Just keep saying, Satan, Satan, yay, 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 Satan, Satan, yay, yay, yay. And congratulations, you're now a black metal band. Running Wild does not have nearly as many satanic references or lyrics or imagery going on as most of the other bands in that 80s black metal camp. I've never thought it was a great place to try to categorize the band. And this is the only album that does. A lot of people will mistakenly say like, oh, the second album also is all that. No, it's not. I've gone through the lyrics of the second album. There's exactly one reference to Satan in the whole bloody album. So yeah, it's a weird tag that they're stuck with, but it doesn't matter because the music here is really good. I think you can tell the band's been around for a while. This wasn't like a brand new bunch of kids who had been together for 18 months. Running Wild traces the roots back to the late 70s. Lee, you mentioned that, they sound like Judas Priest here at this time. Makes perfect sense. The band name comes from a Judas Priest song. They were definitely cultivating that same kind of, leather and studs image you got with early 80s Running Wild. While it is a great album, I agree with what Devin said in the chat a couple of minutes ago. It's great, but I think it does get a little bit overrated because a lot of people don't listen to big chunks of their catalog. Like we were talking about earlier, for many people, they've only heard 2 or 3 Running Wild albums, and they latch onto this one, and that's great that they do. They should, but they tend to think this is like the peak of their catalog, and it's really not. There's a lot of better albums that come later, even though I'd still give this one like, A-, 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 kind of score. It's a fantastic album, a great way to start your career. But there are much, much better ones that we'll get to along the way. So that's my quick take on Gates to Purgatory. Marty, what do you think of this one?
Well, Lee had the luxury of, magazines, seeing these bands in the magazines up in northern Michigan. None of those magazines made it up here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the cutoff point was. It was probably Grand Rapids. But basically going into Camelot Music, there was a bargain bin cassette bin. I picked up Branded and Exiled. I'm sorry, Gates to Purgatory and Heavy Metal Breakdown, I think, from Gravedigger. That's the first Gravedigger album, right? Heavy Metal Breakdown.
Yep.
I got them both the same day for $1 a piece. I'm like, these look cool, and they're on, this was on the Running Wild was on Noise, which was, I had to have it. It was on Noise. I had to have it. So I remember my parents, we lived up in the woods. I had this BMX bike with no flat ground, and I was a fat kid. So going up and down the hill on a bike just wasn't cutting the mustard for this fat kid. So they had this partial wraparound deck, and I had like this track I'd ride my bike around. I had the Walkman on. I listened to Gates to Purgatory over and over and over again while riding my bike. Cause there's something about this record. There's like a cultish type of vibe to it. Obviously you got the pseudo Satan thing going. Rolf's English isn't great, but it really adds to the mystique of the album for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It is very simplistic, kind of stripped down, mid-tempo heavy metal. But God, just the catchiness and the choruses, Black Demon, what a song. Awesome. Prisoners of Our Time, of course, that's kind of their theme song. Diabolic Force, always loved. I mean, every song on here is great. And the way that the catchiness of it, the way it's produced, everything about this record, it just feels like such a unexplored part of Germany. This was kind of an eye-opening experience when I liked it way better than the Gravedigger tape. That's for sure. But yeah, it's one of those things that they kind of hit gold right off the bat. That cover, like Lee mentioned, that is just, it's so old metal styled cover, but it's so freaking cool, so it's perfect for this record. And yeah, this album has always been a special album for me. It's the first one I ever heard. It had to be, I don't know, not too long after it came out, I would imagine. But yeah, it's really been interesting to this week track the band's evolution and formula. There's a formula to some of it too, but this here is definitely ranked high in my list. We'll get to rankings at the end of the show, but yeah, very special record. They never sounded like this really again, kind of on the next record, but we're going to get into it here in a second. Branded and Exiled, this came out in 1985 on Noise Records as well. They did quite a long stint on Noise Records. Lee, your thoughts? Branded and Exiled.
Yeah, I mean, they, as far as a noise artist goes, like you look at them and you expect them to be on Noise. All right, they just sat so well alongside of those other great thrash bands that the Creators and the Sodoms. I mean, they just looked cool. And Branded and Exiled, when I eventually got that, which wasn't like right after, so I had a bit of time. It was the same, but it was different. It wasn't. I don't remember it, and I mean, I kind of was like, yeah, the first one's a good album. This one just didn't seem to hit as hard for me. I mean, my favorite song's like Branded and Exile because it's the one that is the earworm, and I kind of was, this one to me was a little bit of a disappointment, but again, it's got the nostalgia factor, which is so important when you're going through that evolution of what, how you find things and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's got your same producers back on it. It's the same band, it's a little bit more polished, I would hesitate to say. I mean, it's just got that little bit more of a, maybe it's a little bit more experience that they've had since the last one. They've fixed up a few mistakes. At this point in the musical landscape, like thrash is in full effect, and these guys aren't necessarily Slayer. They're not necessarily Metallica. They're like a more primitive version of those bands, and again, it's such the artwork is very similar. It's very throwback-ish to that. It's almost like it's zoomed in to a point. If I remember it correctly, they did their own artwork again, and this album is the one that gets repressed again and again and again. And I mean, looking up like what these things were like, how many this thing sold really, really freaking well. Like we're talking like was like 250,000 sales on this album, and
really? Wow.
that's like an underground metal band. I mean, I guess that's 250,000 over its time, but still, like that's staying power, right? From 85. 30, 40 years on, it's crazy. And again, the nostalgia factor is, I bet you, what drives this album. Those two albums almost are like the twins on, those conjoined twins. I think if you have one, you've got to have the other. Otherwise, this one does not make sense. And considering it becomes the end of that era and they move into something else, it's a must-have. You just have to. They should sell them in packs of two. You get one, you just get the other one as a. You need this one as well to complete that story. So I love this. I love this album. Not that I like it better, and not that it's great. I just love listening to this album. It's just got a nice old feeling to it, and
it does.
It's very hard to And the black metal thing. I agree with Alan on this. I mean, if we're going to say this has the black metal, this has some influence, then we got to start saying Alice Cooper. We got to start saying Kiss. We got to this can go back and back and back and back. And I hate when people try to hitch that wagon on, because everyone's played Venom out. Bathory's got everything. We can't say that anymore. Running Wild's our new scapegoat to say you're the ones who got us. So. I don't agree with it, but still a great album.
Right on.
Yeah.
Alan?
Yeah, no, good point, Lee. Shout at the Devil says, Devil more times than Branded in Exile does. Do we really want to call Motley Crue black metal? I don't think so. But there is a notable lineup change that happened in between these two albums. Preacher left the band and actually went on to study theology and become an actual vicar. So that's the thing. You can't make that up.
Yeah.
And they bring Moti in on guitar. But he came in very late. Most of this album was written before he was in the band. So most of the songwriting on here fell on Rolf. And he's mentioned in interviews that, kind of stressful because, without Preacher there and no second guitarist yet, he felt like he had to, kind of shoulder the burden and put things together. I don't think he was really enamored with, the rhythm section from this early lineup necessarily, but the album comes together just fine. This one's usually noted for having kind of an odd production a little bit, that it can, and maybe it varies with pressings and stuff. Usually people hear people either mention that the snare drum sounds kind of loud to them, or that it just has kind of like this darker, kind of slightly muffled sound overall. And frankly, I think that's part of the album's charm. I don't think it hurts it. I actually think it makes the music sound kind of dark. And it works fantastic because it's a great set of songs as long as you don't get hung up on the production. Branded and Exiled, like Lee said, that's, kind of the classic earworm to lead it off. Gates of Iron right after it's a real pounder. Realm of Shade has this really great chorus. And that's something I haven't mentioned yet, but just Ralph's voice and guitar writing is, for me, quintessential heavy metal. The guy's got that great leathery voice. He sounds like he's been singing for 100 years from day one, but it always sounds good. And the dude can just, write, riffs and solos in his sleep. And they're better than what 80 or 90% of his colleagues can write if they sit down and focus on it.
Sure. Yeah.
I never get tired of listening to him sing, and I never get tired of listening to put together riffs. At least not for a while. We'll get there eventually. But yeah, this album, I agree with Lee. This one, it fits perfectly with the debut. They each have their own thing going on, but yeah, they really are connected as a pair because things will change after this. The album was pretty successful. Running Wild were doing well enough at this point that they ended up getting put onto a tour package in North America. Which, kind of a big deal for, a small German band on Noise already, getting onto American tour package. That's a thing. Didn't necessarily play out very well. I guess I can go ahead and discuss it briefly now. They were put on tour with Celtic Frost and Voivod. It was the Prepare for the Blitz tour, 1986. Let's face it, Frost, Voivod, and this would have been what? Roar or Killing Tech era Voivod, Marty?
I think it was Roar.
I think it's Roar. So, you're dealing with, two pretty heavy, bands. Running Wild doesn't quite fit on this bill correctly.
I think they're the headliner too, weren't they?
I don't know if they were the headliner, but whoever was promoting the shows was billing Running Wild as quote unquote the heaviest band on the planet. They weren't even the second heaviest band on the fucking bill, and the audience let them know it. So yeah, the tour went pretty badly. Running Wild only lasted about 6 shows before Walter Bach made a decision to just cut his losses, send the band back to Germany. And that's been about it for Running Wild's North American appearances. They kind of, went home with their tail tucked between their legs, got a bit singed there, and Rolf had to take a good hard sort of look in the mirror and try to figure out, where do I go from here? We've made progress in Europe and are going over well, but just slammed into a brick wall pretty hard. I've got a new guitarist in the band. We're not cracking that US market anytime soon. What do we do? We'll find out in a few minutes. But Marty, what do you think of Brandon? Oh, and I would say Brendan and Exiled. Yeah, I would kind of rank these side by side with Gates of Purgatory. It's an unpopular opinion, but I've always slightly preferred Branded and Exiled. I love the really dark tone these tracks have. I think it's fantastic. We're really splitting hairs, but if we were doing an absolute album by album ranking tonight, I would have Branded 1 slot higher than Gates. They're that close. What are your thoughts on this one, Marty?
I feel a little behind the 8 ball on this one to you guys here. I don't have a nostalgic connection to this one, so I'm a little late to the party when it comes to this record. And I was really kind of surprised. I agree. It feels like a lateral move to Gates to Purgatory, but I believe Gates had more of a catchy, campy charm to it. Whether it's that cult thing, I don't know. When I listened to Branded, it kind of, the riffs, I'm not saying it's a bad record. I'm just saying that the rock riffs kind of take center stage here. There's like a rock vibe to it. And it feels like it's a band kind of drowning in an outdated influence. And I, listening back this week to this record a couple times, I'm like, you know what? There's no way, to me anyway, that this band was going to go the distance if they continued on this trajectory. So I kind of see writing on the wall. Maybe the U.S. tour was a good impetus to solidify in Rolf's mind that he needed to do something a little bit different here. Because I think a third album, like to complete a trilogy of records like this, they would have been completely lost in the stream of what was happening in Europe, especially on their own label. Thrash was kind of leading the charge. Thrash, music was getting more aggressive. Their country, there was a microscope. The microscope had turned into a spotlight. You know what I'm saying? There's more people eyes on Germany because of, Destruction, Creator, all the bands that were coming up from there. Sodom, all that stuff. Go ahead.
It kind of matches what Lee said. Thrash is becoming the big thing by this point. Sounding like Judas Priest did 3 years earlier. You are, like you said, Marty. It can seem a little dated to kids who are just focused on what's the fastest, most extreme thing. This is not it.
Yep. And this, like I said, there's some good songs on here, and it's not a bad record. But I think the bigger hooks, the more memorable anthemic style exists on the debut. But that takes us to their third album, 1987's Under Jolly Roger, came out on Noise Records. Mine is a WNMC, a college here in town. It was a white label promo that they wrote all over. That's what they did over there. They write, what'd they say? Beggar's Night, hard driving power riffs, merciless game, fast song, little tricks on there. And what a handsome pirate there, a handsome invader Rolf is there. Look at him, that iron stare. Anyway,
it's got some blue steel going on there.
Blue steel.
So 1987, right? Like, they want to get away from the satanic lyrics or the satanic imagery. Thrash has now left that behind, and now it's like a lot of political the biggest metal selling album is like Whitesnake, 1987, Hysteria, like big pompous stadium rock is in the thing. Would you have loved to have been in the room and when Rock and Rolf, which is the worst pseudonym I've ever heard, all right? There's no, I don't understand how he kept it, but when he went, now listen, guys, we're not going to do satanic imagery anymore. I've got this great idea. We're going to be pirates. Yeah.
Picture this.
That's exactly what I think he's done. He's like, now hear me out. I've got a few songs that have got some swashbuckling in it because there's nothing. And I mean, this is teenage Lee talking again. There is nothing metal about pirates. There is zero thing. The media hasn't really treated them well. It's like swashbuckling men in flary pants and these little thin swords. There's nothing very testosterone about it at all.
There isn't, but it's the point. Rebellion, freedom. I mean, that's where it's at. The spirit.
But that album artwork is killer. Like, you can't beat that. Is like, I think when whoever did this, and I think it's the same guy now for the next few albums, it's like the coolest album artwork. Like, even today, if that came out, I'm buying that without even knowing who that is. Like, and they've changed the logo. They've lost the pig bat. They've lost Adrian. And now they're just the simple running wild, and it still looks cool. It's like there's not too many bands that change their logo.
Roger. Adrian's a
is he? There he is.
Yeah.
But there's no pentagram. There's no more weird pentagram, and now and the stupid pig bat fits. It works on a boat. Like, who thinks of that when they come into this? And so they're now pirate metal. And this album is like, they finally figured out that, oh shit, thrash is kind of cool, right? So now they're a little bit more, they're double basses in there. It's that, and it's every song. I am standing on the end of that boat, Leonardo DiCaprio style, arms out, and the wind is just like through your hair. It is one of the most triumphant, beaten on the chest albums. And like, who would have thought, looking at that on paper, that pirate metal is going to, do anything at all. And I mean, I can't think of how I would love to know what the reception was on a whole, because we were so kind of isolated, but I couldn't imagine it being like taken in as, oh, this is awesome. To me, it would have been looked at as a little, that's a little janky, right? It's pirates. They don't do themselves any favor on the back with the whole hat and the thing. But when you think about it, like pirates, when they're out there, they're war people. They're stealing, they're pillaging, they're across the sea. This is pretty much closer to the black metal type of imagery, just with more color and better dress sense, I guess, right? But
flamboyance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But they took something which should have sucked. Should have been an embarrassment, looking back as my teenage Lee looks at it, and turns it into this beautiful, roaring, triumphant album. And now they're pirate metal. So I guess this really brings pirate metal to the forefront of something. I don't know what, but not that it's the first pirate metal band. I did a bit of digging, and an Australian band gets to claim the first pirate metal band back in Blackjack 79. We got the Germans on this one. So not that they were so like thorough in the imagery, but I mean on stage they wore all the the regalia. But yeah, this album, what a out the gate, and listening to it now, you really hear, like, it's got the Maiden riffs and the Maiden gallops, and it's got you're kind of starting to hear where people went, oh, it's like a power metal. I'm still not hearing that at the moment, but I'm starting to see maybe it's the triumphant kind of songs, and rock and roll. And Rolf really only has a few notes which he hits, but he uses it. Whatever he's doing it so well. And every single song on this thing is just kick ass. I can still go under the Jolly Roger. I can still hear it in my brain because that's the song which just kicks you in the ass. And this is a great album. This one I'm going to say fights for that spot. And I know people in the chat are just completely taking the cult points off me, but this one, to me, was the biggest surprise when going back through this, that I like this so much. Because at this point, I've kind of left this ship. I'm finding, I didn't see it in '87, but like I'm now finding Cannibal Corpse, and I'm now finding stuff,
Yep.
and so I kind of find this a little bit later on as more of a like an anomaly piece, like a sideshow. It's like, oh, look at this, like, oh, what does that sound like? So yeah, but this was such a surprise to hear this as a 50-year-old man. I think it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Right on, Alan.
All right. So yeah, when last we left, Rolf and company were feeling pretty down after a rather disastrous U.S. tour. In 1986, at some point, Rolf went to see the movie Pirates. It's a Roman Polanski production, stars Walter Matthau. It's your typical, schlocky kind of pirate movie. But it kind of struck a chord with him. One part of the problem was that Running Wild at this point felt like they didn't have a good image or any image. The point we discussed earlier, that they do kind of feel like a Judas Priest knockoff in a way. And the satanic thing has been done to death. And so it seems like a little bit of a dead end. And Karl Walterbach really liked his bands on the Noise roster to each have some kind of unique image. Call it image or gimmick or whatever. He liked the bands to have something that made them individual. The bands that he was not really keen on were the more generic bands that never really had something to stand out. And so Ralph is thinking, band needs a new direction. Karl would like us to have something more unique. This whole pirate thing's kind of interesting. He's always been kind of a history buff, Rolf is, so it comes together. And yes, the pitch meeting for this had to be hilarious. But he got the other guys to go along with it. And you end up with Under Jolly Roger. Reception on this one, it was and continues to be divisive. There are a lot of people that refuse to give this a chance because of the Pirates thing. Frankly, okay, I'm not going to make you listen to it if you don't want to. It's like, really? You don't want to listen to it because they're dressed like this? You're fine listening to Halford sing dressed up in a leather boy outfit. You're fine listening to, Grand Phalus Maximus, singing Guar dressed up in prosthetic plastic stuff. You're fine listening to, a 15-year-old kid in Norway, with too much mascara on sing, but you're going to complain about this? I don't know. Metal's always had a theatrical and a can be cheesy looking thing, but I'm not sure why pirates crossed a line in these people's mind. Whatever. The bottom line is, the music kicks ass. So whether they're wearing studs and leather, pirate outfits, or ballerina tutus, they're absolutely killing it musically here. Under Jolly Roger is, yes, the classic. It's the one big song everybody knows. It's got the big cinematic sound effects with the cannons going off and everything. It's perfect. But there's a ton of other really good songs on here. They don't really let off the gas much. You've got War in the Gutter. You've got Diamonds of the Black Chest. That is a rager of a track. Raise Your Fist is simple, but it's high energy. It's what you want heavy metal like this to be. Absolutely. Adrenaline fueled, fist pumping, sing along. Hell yes. It's exactly what you want. So yeah, it's a very good album. It has held up extremely well over time. Nothing bad to say about this one, really. So the band took, a chance on it, and it kind of sets some other trends in motion. After the U.S. tour went bad, Ralph, again, never really wanted to steer back towards American shores. He understood, like, we've got a good thing going in Europe. Let's just focus on that. And even though the metal scene is changing, thrash becoming a thing, you've got embryonic death metal popping up by 87. But he also realized, what? There's an audience that likes us. We have done well up to this point in Europe. We don't necessarily need to change other than just upgrading the image. Get rid of the satanic thing that's run its course. Try something that's going to be more unique. But musically, let's just keep doing what we're doing, but make it better. And yeah, they become, kind of the definition of consistent, pure German heavy metal starting to trend into power metal. He knew where he was going to go over well. He knew what that audience wanted, and he gave it to them. And it was a formula that proves to be really successful as we go forward. But Under Jolly Roger, excellent album. A third album in a row that I'd give like, the minimum 8.5 out of 10 kind of score to. Nothing bad about it whatsoever. So yeah, the boat is up and running pretty well. Marty, what do you think of this change in direction?
Well, it's the album that lit the spark. Metalheads, say what you want. They love arts and crafts. They, strap some paper mache to your ass, and chances are people are going to check you out a little bit faster than just a guy hanging around in a pair of Levi's and a leather jacket. But for me, this is the first step in their transformation. And what really is different, there's still a lot of rock stuff on here. Kind of tracks like Land of Ice and Raw Ride, they kind of felt to me like a castaway from the Branded and Exiled era.
Could have been leftovers, yeah.
Yep. But then you've got, the title track, Beggar's Night, Merciless Game. There's more exciting guitar work and underlying triumphant spirit. There's just their music, more focus on sing-along type choruses, which is big, especially in Europe, where Europe has always laid the groundwork for being a festival, having a festival culture. Metalheads love getting drunk and singing along, and you lob them up the perfect chorus, you've got them. And that's the kind of the start here, especially on, like Lee said, Under Jolly Roger. You remember it because the chorus sticks. Those the rock elements might be clinging to their style a bit, but there's just a more invigorated feel in the guitar work, mainly to me. And you're starting to hear some more triumphant styled layering going on in the music. So man, it's just it's a solid record. I don't love it from start to finish. In fact, I remember when this came out, I was like very underwhelmed because at the time I'd rather listen to Creator or, insert nasty fast thrash band here. I wasn't here yet. And then I had to go through the whole black metal phase. So I'm a little late to the whole power metal / true metal thing. I kind of lumped this era in with Manowar in a way. I think Manowar was on the cheesier side of things, but it took me a minute to get here, but I'm glad I finally came around to it because this music it's great. It's a great record. It's not a perfect record for me, but we're getting further down the road here with their 1988 release on Noise Records, Port Royal. Lee, your thoughts on Port Royal?
Just quickly touching back on Jolly Roger, there's two songs on there. One in particular, the Raw Ride, which again starts to pop its little. It sounds like, and as I go on, I'm kind of like, what is Rolf absorbing to be writing this stuff? Because he's late to the game consistently, and I think that kind of helps them because, like, a lot of bands started to change their style after the 90s, and they stripped it back. The grunge thing, even thrash bands were doing it. But Raw Ride from Jolly Roger is a stripper song. Like, I think of that and it's got a grindy, sleazy guitar sound. It sounds, it kind of feels like he got something like some type of glammy, or at least, maybe some Guns N' Roses, something that's in there which is so sleazy, but it's like a little bit of a bend. And it's so early on because when Port Royal comes around, I'm going to butcher the name of this song, and Alan, I'm sure you'll correct me, and I'll feel silly, but it's pretty much, if I say it the way I wrote it, it sounds like "You Are Shit" song, but it's not.
Oh,
it's
I have no idea how to pronounce that. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I tried, but we're going from pirates, and this is another pirate, and the artwork again is phenomenal. It's so cheesy good. It's like The Last Supper with pirates. All right, it's so cool, but now we've got a song about American Indians. And I'm like, it caught me off guard where I'm just like, I don't know why. And whether they caught some of the political, environmental stuff that the thrash bands were doing at the time. But this song, I had to go back and listen to it again. It's catchy as hell, but it's like, it's about an American thing. It's a German band dressed as pirates singing about American Indians. which is so twisted when you think about it, right? I don't know what he's consuming to think that he can do this and it's going to be cool, but it's a good song, which is really surprising. I didn't think this was as strong as Jolly Roger. I had to listen to it a few times. I did start to pick up its vibe, and I did like it more. I didn't like it more than Jolly, but it was a letdown for me when I heard it through the week, and I was like, it sucks because I really want to like it, especially after that. And I love the cover. It's got the same producer, the same guy who does the art, and then I found that Rolf's vocals were a little bit more unhinged, which I didn't think did it any disservice. I think that he kind of, whether he went in there under a few terps and figured he'd sing a little bit more lit, but he sounds a little bit more not so controlled. But again, like the choruses aren't as strong, and when you're talking about, I guess, triumphant pirates in the sea and, us scurvy dogs and whatever, I think you need some of that hi-ho type of stuff. And this one has it and then it doesn't have it, so I found that to be, a little, maybe it's a grower. I don't know. The production is good. It's a little flat, not as vibrant as Jolly Roger. I think that probably hurt it a little bit. Maybe there's something I'm not getting, but again, like Into the Arena, it sounds like something else. And this is going to be a theme later on too, going forward, where I'm like, I know this song that is on this album and I can't put my finger on it. And then I put my finger on this damn song. And it's like, you start to see what he's consuming. It's just so late in the game when everyone's past it. And I love him for it because he didn't bend. He just kept going. Grunge was here. You know what? It's a pirate album. This is happening. It's a pirate album. I love that. It's almost like Lemmy. He just didn't. Yeah. He was too stupid to quit. I love that. That's what this is about. I love this album, just not as much as Jolly.
All right.
Oh, and it sold really well. Surprisingly, like Jolly and this one. Like this one was like the biggest seller. The next one. But this has sold like 2 million copies. This thing, in its time. So it didn't hurt him. It was a commercial success. So
hearing that Port Royal sold 2 million copies, and people wonder why musicians are hurting these days, because the internet is a good tool for promotion, sure. But man, it's also a curse if you want to try to live off your music. It just is. I mean, go from 2 million copies sold of your, third record, fourth record. Times have changed. It's great for the consumer. It's great for the fan that wants to hear everything they possibly can. But man, it's detrimental to bands trying to get a foot, try to live off their art. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Sorry, Alan.
No, it's all good. Yeah. So Port Royal, you have some new deckhands on board here because the rhythm section is rotated out here. Again, Rolf got the sense his rhythm section wasn't really all that on board, so they walked the plank, bring in some new talent. And so they're just kind of moving from strength to strength. Album works really good. This was the first full-length album I got by Running Wild. I had probably heard a song or two here or there on some comps, but I found this, and I got it as a used cassette tape in a record store for like $3. And I didn't even notice it at first, but the tape was at the point where it was ready to play side B. So actually, really, the first thing I heard off of this wasn't the first track. It was Conquistadors. And to this day, it's one of my favorite songs in their
Great song, man.
Just amazing guitar line through that song. Big chorus.
Epic as shit.
I knew immediately after that, I'm like, this is a band I'm going to be investing a lot of time in. And I have. But yeah, you see the band, branching out here, like Lee said. And that's something I think that gets overlooked in Running Wild's catalog, especially by the people who just want to write them off as a pirate band. Marty, you said it earlier. The big theme with Rolf, it's not Indians, it's not pirates even. It's freedom.
Freedom.
You go all the way back to the debut album, with songs on here like Prisoners of Our Time and Victim of State's Power. These are songs of rebellion against things like government oppression, being subjected to rules of the state, mainstream conformity. They have kind of a satanic veneer, but, with Victim of State's Power, he's not saying go out and perform dark rituals to hail Lucifer. He's like, stick it to the man, like, Lucifer tried to do. Okay, yeah, that didn't work out great for Satan in the end, but, stand up to authority. That is what it is. And you start hearing it more and more in different veins here, with songs about Native Americans' plight. You start to get, some songs about just like, riding free, kind of, the more, biker anthems and things. It's a constant theme. He just finds different ways to deliver it. Running Wild does not write just pirate song after pirate song after pirate song. It's always present. The appearance is always there. There's always going to be a few pirate songs. That's fine. But there's a much wider variety. Yes, he goes into Western Americana quite a bit and other things. And with a lot of the pirate songs, he took some time to try to research the characters and such. We see it for the first time with Calico Jack. This isn't Ailstorm, for God's sake. It's not just a bunch of guys bouncing a rubber duck around going rum, 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 and singing it 10 goddamn times and treating it like it's a serious band. If people like Ailstorm, that's fine. It's fun. I find it fun for about 2 songs, and I've had enough. That is not what Rolf was ever trying to do with Running Wild. It may look a bit cheesy, but they've got the musical chops to back it up. And he's putting the effort into the songwriting to make this stuff really good. Port Royal, I agree with Lee. The production here is not their best. No. And if you have these older noise CDs like this one, they sound really bad. You have to crank these things up to even hear what's on the disc. I should get a different copy of this sometime.
The BMG reissues are really nice, Alan.
Yeah, there are better pressings. I just happen to have that old CD pressing of it. But yeah, still a great album. For me, it's comparable. If we're ranking everything, I'd have it very close to Under Jolly Roger. Under Jolly Roger's got better production. It may... Yeah, geez, it's very close for me. I love both the albums. You're getting into, with the new rhythm section on board and the themes all coming together, you're really getting into the true golden age of Running Wild by this point. Marty, take it away.
I'm glad you did mention the lyrics, because I was going to get there too, and this would have been the perfect time to do so, because I think the pirate thing was a gift to the band. It gave them a bit of direction. They could kind of shift their music stylistically to those more triumphant melody lines, and it would fit within the aesthetic. But, the freedom thing is huge in the Running Wild thing, lyrical arsenal. And I got to say that especially as you go on, I think the pirate thing kind of became a bit of a chain as well. They got kind of shackled by it, but it never really deterred him. He still wrote songs that, watch out for the government, different topics, a lot of variety. It isn't just pirate stuff, which might confuse some folks, but I always thought that was pretty cool. And it isn't most evident until you sit down and listen to all the records in like a week. But I think Port Royal here, I think the transitional shift, it definitely continued on this record. They had more of a clear focus on what they wanted and where they were going. Bigger sounding riffs, more guitar layers. And they're kind of riding into glory with some of these songs. Songs like Conquistadors is a prime example of the catchy chorus, very highly melodic guitar lines, and just a complete earworm. I also like Into the Arena and War Child for a double bass driving deep cut.
Oh, War Child just kicks ass. Mike Villain just mentioned it, and I was agreeing 100%.
And Mike, thank you for the super chat, man. Appreciate you so much. And
yes, didn't miss that earlier, Mike. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks for staying up with us in Germany on a late Friday night. Appreciate you, man. But that brings us to 1989's EMI Noise Records released Death or Glory. Lee, Death or Glory?
So far, even, and if I'm understanding everyone correctly, even their bad albums are just not as good as their awesome albums. So they, at this point, have put very little you know, they've had very little missteps, but they're still just consistent. And I think if that's any band, if it's any band out there that's like what are we at now? We're at 89. You know, 5 years of consistent good. I mean, this is now the brand Running Wild is, and I mean, again, I don't remember how it was perceived, if they had that groundswell and they were, you know, kicking it. This album, Death and Glory, is their crown, right? So this thing it's a thrash album. It's like suddenly it's kicked in. They understand the thrash thing. Every single song on this just smokes, right? It's got the same people, the same producer. And the other thing, with their musos that seem to start coming in and out, they never really had, that I could research, they never really had someone in there that was like the hot shot from another band that was similar, right? Like they never had like the, you know, quote unquote, the creator guitar player step in for an album or whatever. It was really only him writing everything, and he just had guys that were just these people that were playing. And it doesn't affect, in my mind, it doesn't affect how the album sounds. It seemed to just find competent players, but none of them were ever doing anything before or really after it, you know, from what I'm looking at, unless I've missed one, and Alan's probably going to say, no, that's not true. But to my looking at it, he seems to just have it down. So this album's killing it. So the coolest thing about this, there is a little bit of experimentation in that Highland Glory song, which seems to have like a bit of a psychedelic, like a bass line, almost like a Pink Floyd thing going on under it. And I couldn't put my finger on it if it was a bass line or if it was something else, but it was different to anything else that's been on this in this band up until this point, you know. So you've got your quote unquote primitive or whatever metal, and then you've gone to your Pirates, and then from your Pirates you've gone a little bit more rocky, and then you've just hit like big triumphant power, and now suddenly we're going into thrash, but it's still kind of piratey, it's still triumphant. Now we're adding a little bit of musicality to it, which hasn't been in any of them. So again, not listening to any influences. This guy's got his own. He probably didn't have a stereo in his truck or something, so he wasn't listening to anything. There was no influences that I can see, because he's not looking at anything recent. He's just, or anything that's contemporary when he's releasing these albums in 89. The biggest album in 89 is Dr. Feelgood. So this sounds nothing like that, you know, and Metallica's already gone out and put their 3 good albums out. You know, they're kind of looking at this weird road now, but these guys are just, it does not stop. And this one is killer. I mean, as far as, I put down what my standout song, Bad to the Bone, is the one that I put down as like, that is the one that I thought was just a killer song. But I mean, you can throw a dart at this track list and hit your favorite song, you know, it's that good. And their biggest seller, 3 million sales. Like, what's that now? Like, you'd be lucky to. And I did a bit of a side-by-side. So the biggest band, I guess, in trendy stuff that, you know, what's that band, that Slaughter to Prevail or whatever? Oh, yeah. In their first few months, like, they sell about 1,200 albums, and they're huge. And so suddenly we have like 3 million sales.
The curse of the internet.
It's crazy what is happening now. Sorry, I'm wrapped up in sales, but this is a killer album. If you don't own this, you need to do something about it, rectify that.
100% agree. Alan.
Yeah, this one, if there's a breakthrough album for Running Wild, it's this one. And a big part of that is the EMI connection. This is the point in time where, you know, Carl was working with EMI. EMI was wanting to take a few noise bands under their wing. They were paying attention to the kind of sales numbers that Lee's been quoting. They understood there's this, you know, small independent label in Germany, but they're getting some really good numbers. So of course they want a piece of that action. It's kind of similar, you know, to what happened with, you know, Earache Records in the 90s. You know, there's this, you know, all of a sudden a major label's courting and offering to kind of help, you know, develop some of your talents. Halloween was the main thing going on with noise, but, you know, Carl had set it up where EMI was going to be working with, I think, 4 bands, very similar to the Earache situation years later, and Running Wild was one of the bands. The Halloween thing became a fiasco So that's a story for another time if folks aren't familiar with it. But Halloween, it quickly became a horrible legal quagmire. In the meantime, Running Wild was just like, hey, no problem. We'll do a pirate album. Like Lee said, we're just going to keep sailing along, do our thing, and not get distracted with anything. So they put out, Death or Glory. I will nitpick this album for one reason. I never did like this cover art. Like, if you had, great covers on the others, and here you got this 2-panel thing that looks weird. I don't know. I don't like the layout of it.
You know what? I agree with you, but it's so much a part of this record at this point. I look at it and I know what's inside the fucking thing, and I'm like, you know what? It's the way it needed to be. It's the cover for this amazing album.
Anyway, it's what happened. Yeah. But they could have had a better cover for it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like Lee said, they're just doing what they've done on the past couple of albums, but here they're turning it up to 11. And right off the bat, with Riding the Storm backed up with Renegade, if you're not sold by that point, just okay. Different strokes for different folks. You can stop listening to Running Wild now. Nothing is ever going to sell you on this band if those 2 songs back to back don't. That's all there is to it. So yeah, the band does well with the album. And yes, again, they know their audience. They know what works. They keep putting out the albums. They're following the blueprint that Carl really liked for his bands. They've got their own image. They're a pretty low maintenance band for him. They put out an album almost every year, like clockwork. He's happy. The band's happy. The fans are happy. It is a banger of an album. I haven't tried ranking like my top 50 or top 100 albums of all time in a long time. This one's on the initial list. It's probably in that mix somewhere. It is an amazing album. There's a ton of great songs on side 2 that people don't always shout out. Marooned is amazing. Tortuga Bay is great. Bad to the Bone is like Renegade. It has that same just nasty ass vibe to it. So yes, we are now 5 albums in. The band has not released anything that's less than 8.5. This is it perfect? It's close to damn near perfect. Death or Glory is really hard to beat. Where do I rank it? We'll find out in a little while.
Let's find out.
It may not be number 1 though, because this is a stacked catalog. Marty, your thoughts on this one, please, sir?
Yeah, my first in my notes, a perfect album? ? It really feels like that to me. And trying to assess what is it. The first 2 things that popped to mind instantly while listening to this record: humongous growth in the production. The production is slick without losing sight of mean, good sounding guitars, drums that are sitting perfectly in the mix. Ralph's voice is in the mix perfectly. The second and most important thing for me on this record is Ralph's voice. There's a humongous jump in improvement in his singing. He is living in a higher register in his voice here, which really works well, accompanying this more triumphant feeling. I was thinking this in my head, and someone in the Discord server, they've been talking about Running Wild all week, getting ready for the show, that he took vocal lessons at some point. And I'm wondering if it's between Port Royal and this album, because there's a humongous jump in the quality of his voice. He became
around this time. It may have been slightly earlier, but yeah, it is somewhere in this late 80s realm where he did that.
It completely pays off, man. This is a really triumphant and amazingly well-written album. Even bigger riffs, more layering, very interesting transitions, and more complex song structures. Definitely everything is just come together, this perfect union on this record. Best tracks for me: Riding the Storm. I really like Renegade, Evolution, Running Blood. Rolf, I mentioned he's living in this higher vocal register, which really helps open up. These riffs are layered and so melodic and elevating, and him stretching up in his register to reach those peaks. It just feels special. Like everything is finally coming into place, and he is improved a lot as a songwriter and as a singer. And this album completely blows away what he had done beforehand. So And that brings us to the 6th album, Blazing Stone, 1991, which also came out on Noise Records. Lee.
Again, a killer art. Like, I love the front cover to this, and they kind of they looked at that Death and Glory and we went really well. Everyone loved it. We're not doing that again. Right back to the triumphant power metal. It's still got the thrashy thing in it, but we're back to the big triumphant stuff again. We're back on the boat. We find, like, what's the song? Little Bighorn. Great song. We're back into American Indian territory again.
Yep.
And I love the thing which I always loved about these older albums is that big snare. That it just goes on and on and on. And I mean, it's got all the big stadium-like drums. This is a huge album. Like, the production is crazy good. And if I'm not mistaken, this is not the last one of Jen's, but this, I would have to say, if production and again, we're talking about another great album. What do we have? Six for 6.
Yep.
This is killer. Like, this should have been, again, just because of the way this thing flows. This I would have loved to have seen. Jolly, Port, this one, Death, but what a cool turnaround. Like, we're not going to give you the same thing again. We're going to go back. We're going to give you something else, but we're going to put steroids into this, bitch, and we're going to go headlong, into the wind. But another album which killed it for me. And, I would say if, these are one of the 3 albums that I think you need as Blazing Stone. And, unfortunately, I don't believe it was successful for them, but it wasn't as successful as the previous ones, which is a shock because, it could have been the times. What's this, 91?
Death metal's coming in, man.
Yeah, that's the more extreme.
Things are changing.
So the Florida scene's kicked in. Maybe that's a thing,
Yep.
and we're all going that way. But yeah, it's unfortunate to have that gap in time where now we appreciate something that's come out. Great for old Rolf now that he's in his elder years. But this is a great album, man. Great album.
All right, Alan.
All right. Yeah, there is another factor to the sales here that's really weird. I'll get to it in a second. But I agree with Lee 100%. This is another excellent Running Wild album. However, I think it gets lost in the mix sometimes. It's a completely new lineup. Everybody from Death or Glory is gone except for Rolf. Modi's gone. Rhythm section's gone. He's got a completely new crew on board. All the other guys have been, turned into shark bait, headed into port, got some new recruits. So, it's a completely new lineup of guys, but they still sound really great. It's a pretty stacked track list. The one thing I do want to mention here, and I meant to do it earlier, folks are mentioning like some different songs here and there on different albums. Running Wild is one of those cases where if you get different pressings, you will end up with different extra tracks tacked on. Like someone mentioned a minute ago, they liked everything except for one track on Death or Glory. I checked, and my copy of Death or Glory doesn't have that song. So your mileage can vary a bit when you get towards, especially the end of the CDs.
Yeah, my Death or Glory is a 2-disc set. So
yeah, because they did, EPs and had B-sides and covers and Japanese pressings, with bonus tracks and all that stuff that made it onto later pressings. So it is something to be mindful of if you're buying a Running Wild CD. If you're looking for very specific songs, double check what pressing you're getting because that does factor into things. Blazing Stone has a very, very strong track list. Little Bighorn, Lee mentioned it. Yeah, that is one of the 2 best tracks. My pressing has a track called Billy the Kid, which is amazing too, but I don't know if that's one of the regular tracks that's on all pressings. It doesn't look like it is, according to Metal Archives. That said, while this is a great album, I still would rank it very high. It's not one I reach for very often. And I think it just kind of gets a little overshadowed by the amazing Death or Glory we just talked about and what's about to happen with the next few albums that come out in the early and mid 90s. I think this has middle child syndrome where it just can't get enough attention because of the things that are just a little older and a little younger than it. That's my perspective on it. Anytime I do take it out and play it, and this is one I replayed this week, I'm like, Jesus, that's a good record. Why don't I play this record more? Well, it's because we're on album number 6, and there's nothing I drank lower than 8.5 out of 10. So the competition's pretty fierce. Now, about the album sale number you quoted, Lee, a weird thing happened with this when it was about to come out. I mentioned before that, Carl was dealing with EMI, trying to, really, kind of, he was leery of getting involved with the big label, but kind of couldn't resist the temptation of, that big money. And things had gotten really, really sour over Halloween's status. And so and I may get some of the details here wrong. If I do, hopefully, like maybe Mike or someone in the chat can clean this up if I mess it up. When this is getting ready to be released via EMI, Carl was so pissed that he actually rushed out a version of it on Noise, which he was not supposed to do. He basically pirated his own album by his pirate band, which you gotta love the irony of that. Because, he knew what he was doing. He says, like, yep, EMI is going to be pissed. They're going to take out a restraining order and force me to pull them off the shelves. But they're a big fucking company, and big companies move slow, and it's going to take them 2 to 3 weeks before they can actually get their lawyers off their asses, go to the court, file the injunction, and have it served to me. And by that fucking time, I can sell a shitload of copies and steal all their thunder because they're dicking me over with Halloween. So he rushes out a pirated, illegal pressing of Blazing Stone. And by the time EMI could do anything about it, he'd sold like 50,000 copies of it. So that has an impact on the sales numbers for Blazing Stone. One of those crazy things that would only happen, in that time with that kind of label. But yeah, I agree with Lee. It is a great album. There's a lot of great tunes on it. It doesn't feel like they really miss a step, even though he's breaking in a new lineup here. And some of these guys don't stick around for very long. This is where we didn't detail all the lineup changes. Running Wild never had the most stable lineup, and we're going to see that continue to be an issue going forward. The scuttlebutt has always been that Rolf is not the easiest guy to work with. That's always been what you hear from former band members. It's like, I don't know whether he's a bit of a tyrant or just doesn't let anybody else contribute or what, but the revolving door is a thing here. But at least for now, it's not affecting the quality. We're 6 albums in. We've got 6 awesome albums. Marty, what's your take on Blazing Stone?
Yeah, this feels a lot like Blazing Stone Part 2 to me, which I'm completely fine with. They're really locked in their formula for sure. I love the energy on the title track that they open the album with. Great cascading riff runs, really pile on the melody. They're living in this melodic realm here, but they still hang on to those hard rock elements for the middle parts of the record. They always start off with the sweeping melodies early on in the aggression, and then kind of revert back to the more rock stuff as the album goes. But again, Bloody Red Rose, great melody lines in this one, and the guitar work. White Mask and Straight to Hell are both bangers. I mean, Alan's right. This is an album I don't grab for often because I always go to my favorites, but just want to say, look at this band photo. This thing is
that is such a photo.
There is some 80s glam hair there. It's a hair helmet, really. It's amazing.
Those shoulder pads, had to eat up at least a quarter of their profits from those production.
When the band is on tour with a seamstress, you know that you're hitting a different stride here. But all right, we're on to 1992 with Pile of Skulls on EMI Electrola. Is when that came out. And Lee,
Yeah, pile of skulls, and surprisingly, the artwork is a pile of skulls.
Yes.
It's really on the nose, that one. I don't know what this. Okay, so maybe because of the way we listen to them, in that I'm just back ending, one, then the next one, then the next one. This just, I don't know. I didn't grasp anything on this. Like, I really had to go back and listen to it again. What I found was like, okay, there's something. I think they used like an accordion or something that sounds like it in the very first opener. But then it, like Chamber of Lies, like the first song, is good. It's just not great, and I don't know. I mean, again, like I was unaware of the legal issues that he might have had with the last one, but I don't know if that shadowed something or if that was a thing. But this doesn't sound as, I like to say the invisible oranges thing. It feels a dull point, but it's. And I think this is one of those albums where it's a fan favorite. A lot of people like this, and I think this is where we'll start to separate as far as what we're going to like and what we're not going to like. But this just didn't do it for me, and I don't know why, because it's got all the elements. It's. I feel it's a little darker. I don't think the production is as big as Blazing Stone, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't. Hit me, and I can't. I wrote all these things, and I'm just trying to figure out, really, just to myself, like, why. But I mean, then like there's a Treasure Island on there, which is a great song. You know what I mean? Like, something came out which might have felt like it should have been on Blazing, but it was on this album. But this one to me feels like the first trip, and there's going to be a lot more to come. But this one to me just felt like a stumbling block, whether there was some creative juices that weren't flowing and these were not great, but it will do. I'm not sure. I really don't know the story behind it, but this one to me, listening straight after Blazing, just didn't hit for me at all. And it's not bad. Again, it's not a shitty album. It's just it's not the last one. So take it away, because I mean, I honestly didn't think it was. I wanted to like it because the cover is so good. It's called Pile of Skulls. It should be cool, but it just didn't hit. I'm sorry, chat, because everyone's yelling at the moment at their screen. I would be.
All right, Alan.
Lee, it's been fun, but it's time for you to walk the plank. Yeah, cool cover.
I knew it was coming.
It's his, Andreas Marschall. He's done tons of great metal cover art over the years. The Rage Trapped album, In Flames, Jester Race. You can always tell Andreas's artwork because the main thing, there's always like a main character object, and it's always got that kind of white, ghostly glow around it. It's just his thing. It's what he does. Things with Pile of Skulls. Pile of Skulls. You don't have to nitpick. There are a couple of things here that are a little off. The production is not great here, particularly in the drums. It's kind of weird and clicky sounding in a way. And once again, we have a new rhythm section on board. The crew turnover here, these guys keep falling off, the poop deck or something. They just aren't lasting very long. The album also gets off to a little bit of an uneven start for me. There are some good tracks on side A, but there are some that are okay, just don't really blow me away. So it's a little inconsistent through the first few songs. However, I think about the time you get to Fistful of Dynamite, and certainly by the time you're getting into side 2 with tracks like Pile of Skulls, Letter Gold, Jennings' Revenge is amazing. Then it really is. It becomes banger after banger after banger. So Lee, that might be just part of the issue. That the album, this is one of those albums that's backloaded, I think. So the first few tracks you may have been like, coloring your perception a bit. If you decide to give it another chance sometime, I'd almost say start in the middle, go through some of the good tracks, and pass on the ones at the start that are a little just a little off the mark. None of them suck, in my opinion, but some of them do just feel a little plain. The crown jewel here, though, is the closer. Running Wild's done obviously history themed songs before, and they've had some songs, in that 7-minute mark and such. But here they do kind of their first big, long, epic track, 11 minutes and 14 seconds for Treasure Island. And let's face it, if there was a story song that Running Wild was meant to write, it was going to be Treasure Island, and it's fucking fantastic. You have the kind of narration at the beginning, or reading the tale with some of the sound effects and all in the back. Rolf screaming, like the main pirate, "Pieces of 8, pieces of 8!" Ha 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 ha! Oh god, it's so perfect. And the song itself is really good too. It actually has a good theme to it. The main chorus riff is good and catchy. It gives the song continuity for all 11 minutes. It's how you want to write an 11-minute song. It's the Running Wild equivalent of something like Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Is it as good as that one? No. Okay, let's stay real here. Maybe it's not quite on that level, but it's in the ballpark. So yeah, for me, Pile of Skulls absolutely continues the streak. 7 albums, 7 winners. This one does have a few things. There's a few flaws here that I think are fair for folks to call out, with the production and some of the songs being a little uneven before the album settles in. But nope, still on board. Pile of Skulls, love that one a ton. Marty, what do you think of this big Pile of Skulls?
Really, I think we're settled into this mindset: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And
Yep.
One thing I noticed listening to Running Wild from start to finish in the course of a week, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'm just saying that doing that with any band could always be problematic, but a band like Running Wild, who have their own special sauce, you start to maybe think about albums differently. Like if it was, a year and I just grabbed this off the shelf and threw it on, man, I would be swashbuckling in my pants all day over this thing. It's a great record. I mean, what we got here? A lot of clever and hooky riffs, driving double bass on the opening track. Ralph, again, living in that higher register. And I love the energy coming out of the palm muted chords, power chords, and melody lines, which as the catalog progresses from here, that becomes a curse. It becomes a curse. But right now on album 7, I'm still really feeling really positive with Running Wild, but there's no denying, after listening to album after album that are all on a very high elevated quality, if I had a year or two if I was getting these when they were coming out back in the 90s, I'd be so psyched. But listening to them one after the other, it feels like an album that doesn't end, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
it is a long album.
It kind of changes my perspective a bit, which makes me, as we get to the end here, a lot harsher on the way I feel about where this all ends. But for now, I think we're, like Alan said, we're still on target here. We're still putting out great material. I love the cover. It's so 90s, and that white shimmer around the skulls is that guy's trademark. And it's so, God, it makes me want to go back in time when these albums were coming out. And I wish I could have experienced them as they were coming out. I was getting into the heavy shit and about to go into the cult stuff and have my head up my ass. But anyway,
you make one good point there, Marty. Some of these albums do start to get a bit long, and especially again, if you're getting the CD presses that have like 2 or 3 extra EP songs, they're really starting to stretch out. So that can be an issue from time to time.
Which brings us next to 1994 on Noise Records, Black Hand In. This guy right here. We're going to talk to this guy right here about Black Hand In.
We're back, baby. We're back in the game. So this, I think, Pile of Skulls is, I again, the way Marty was correct. Like the way we listen to them is not right. This is like an eating challenge where you know you're overdoing it.
Eat the biggest burger and you get a free fucking t-shirt.
And you got to do it in a half an hour. So, but I mean, all their albums are like an hour long. Like they're brutal, especially when you start getting on later. It was like, oh, that's not a great song, but we need it. Let's put another one on to compensate. And that's a shit song too, but not this album. This album is awesome. So like grunge is in here. Like people are starting to strip back. They got their flannies on. These guys are like, nope, we're going right back to the old triumphant power. This album is killer. Like the production's sick. The artwork is on point. Mr. Deadhead, like the Black Hand In song, it's so cool. And I think just because being maybe that it came after Pile of Skulls, where I was like, I'm back in my comfort. It's my warm, comfy place. Running Wild is doing these awesome, big, grandiose songs again. There's Soulless. Brilliant song. I mean,
one of my favorite Running Wild songs. Such a good.
I wrote that.
Oh yeah.
It was like I went through it again and I was, oh shit, how did I forget that? But like everything is just so cool. This is when I start to see the power metal, like the real true form of that power metal. And also too, which I didn't notice in the other ones, this has a lot more dynamics in it. You know what I mean? So instead of that power metal beat, that like they're slowing it down and they've got a lot more going on, which really helps them. But yeah, this is another killer. And like I said, like grunge is here, Pantera is huge, Korn is coming into the scene. This guy doesn't give a shit, man. He's listening to the same stuff over and over again, and he's just gone backwards. So everyone's looking to the new trend. Like these guys really stuck to their guns. And I mean, that alone, not only just putting out a cool album, but that alone is worth the pat on the back. You know, and you're right. If this was like what Pile of Skulls is 92, and then I got time to forget that one, and then come into this, like this would be that so much better to get, you know. And it was even good just to hear it after that change. But yeah, Black Hand In, Blazing, Port Royal, Jolly, like killer. If he just would have, you know, maybe Pile of Skulls, maybe it did drag on, or maybe those first few songs lost me, but this one definitely does, because there's not a bad song on this album. And again, it passes the blind buy test too. You know, if you're not adverse to pirates, then you would pick this up just because that album cover is so striking.
It's
great
cover,
album.
yeah.
I put this one pretty high up.
They're really big at having their portraits painted. They're not a lot of, I mean, there's band photos here and there, but they always have themselves painted, which is cool. Right on, Alan.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tavern in the Grove. This album smokes almost everything else in its path. Yeah, like Lee said, if you know the past two albums weren't quite up to par, this one to me feels like the natural successor to Death and Glory. Cranked to 11. Just playing super fast on some of these songs. The whole intro thing, the kind of story concept going through it, they do it so well. With you can just imagine someone telling this story around some. The scene here is exactly what's happening for the first few minutes. And from then on, it was called Black Hand Hill and was avoided. Dun, 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 dun. And they just build and build and build. And when this motherfucker breaks, you're just like, oh shit, yeah, give me a fucking air guitar. We're playing on this one. Absolutely. It is irresistible. And it doesn't let up for most of the album. Yeah, a lot of folks have been saying that, it's like their number one, number two in the catalog. I can absolutely see why. But I'm me. I'll nitpick. There's one thing I think that misses just a little bit on this album. It is one like Pile of Skulls. It has a long run time, even if you don't have any of the bonus tracks. Metal Archives over here for just the straight 11 tracks. You're already at 65 minutes. It is a glorious 50 minutes. The very last song, I said before, they did this great, amazing 11-minute Treasure Island epic on Pile of Skulls. Here they do a 15-minute closer, Genesis. And yes, it's this crazy story with, aliens tying into, the, Old Testament and all this kind of stuff. And there's some backstory to that. People have told me before. It's kind of Ralph, got the idea from this particular I don't think it's like a conspiracy theory thing, but it's this particular viewpoint or whatever. It's a cool concept. I don't think it's good enough to go on for 15 minutes. That's the only song on this album I would have said, you know what, just chop that one off, end it at the 50-minute mark, right after Dragonman, and chef's kiss. You're good. You're perfect. This particular 15-minute track, it's like good try, not awful, but it sure as hell ain't no Treasure Island. We'll put it that way. But nevertheless, yes, a fantastic album. Among 90s German power metal albums, I don't know if something right off the top of my head that maybe some of the best Blind Guardian or Gamma Ray. It's on that level for sure. It can stand toe to toe with any of those albums by some of those bigger bands. Fantastic. We'll see where it gets ranked later, if it cracks the top 3 or if it just misses out. We're 7, 8 albums in, and still making amazing albums. This run is crazy. Y'all mentioned it at the start of the show, but to have this many good albums in a row, that shit just don't happen. Marty, I'll pass it over to you because I've gushed enough.
Soulless, man. It's all about Soulless for me. That song, the chorus, soulless, fire of evil burns in your heart. Rules. That's the song going down the road I listened to 3 times. Like, oh, that's happening again. Oh, yep, happening again. That song, the Privateer, Phantom of Blackhand Hill, bangers. And there's a bit more heaviness, a little bit more speed on this one, not like blazing speed. People are mentioning the drummer on here. Say a band's only as good as his drummer. Great drummer on this album for sure, which is a goddamn shame because as we go into the drum machine years, this like the soul is stripped from the band. It just stale. Anyway, we'll get there. This is a definite favorite album for me. This thing, it just doesn't get old. It's how do you keep 8 albums in, man? I mean, I got a little band. We're putting our 3rd album out, and you're constantly thinking, is it okay? Is it good? I mean, I don't know. Investing your entire life into writing album after album after album, and you think, oh, hell with the fans. I write for myself. I do what I want, which I think there is a bit of that with Rolf. I think that, like you said, the spirit of freedom, and he does one thing really well, and how the hell can you get this far in and still be putting out such great fucking music? Yeah. I don't know. It's Running Wild are one of the few bands that have achieved this over the years. That's for sure.
I mean, to take a real quick moment here, just to help put it in some context, since we've brought it up here, Marty, compared to some of the other, big bands and their stretch of albums, Black Sabbath, you get 6, essential albums, but then by album 7 and 8, those last 2 Ozzy albums, they're polarizing at best. Some people dig them, but some people do not like them. There's a change in quality there. Iron Maiden, album number 8, you're on No Prayer for the Dying. And what comes after No Prayer for the Dying? With Judas Priest, you've already worked through Rockarola, Point of Entry, which is an album that is, again, some folks like, some folks, even the band doesn't like that album very much. By Motorhead, by album number 8, you're into what? The mid 80s period where there's some good albums, but the classics are kind of behind them. 8 albums, a lot of bands don't get that far, and very few get that far in and still are still at top level quality. So.
All right. Well, what's next? We've got 1995 Noise Records Masquerade. That one right there. You got the white shimmer around the dudes again. It must be the same artist. It is.
Yep, Marshall. Yep, absolutely.
Lee, what you got on this one?
They must have got a discount off that guy, right? Because he kept doing it, but he did a good job. So, I mean, to put that in perspective too, like imagine if you got 8 solid back-to-back albums from Creator or Sodom, they all had their good stuff, but by the time most people say Coma of Souls, people's checked out after Coma of Souls.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, think
to
about where
have
those
8
bands are at. Lee, think where those
Yeah.
bands are at in the mid 90s. All of those bands are floundering for an identity. Creator, Destruction, they're releasing some of the worst albums of their career at the same time.
Celtic Frost.
Running Wild stays the course.
So, I mean, for whatever the reason was, he didn't seem to falter he didn't worry about what was going on around him. And I mean, you could see like Creator, that Renewal album, if he wasn't listening to Sepultura and just going, I need to have that world, that deeper grunt or whatever it is. That's always how I mean, these guys weren't going to change. They weren't going to keep it great, but they weren't going to change. He tried. And I think this one is where the major cracks start to appear. I mean, Rebel at Heart's a good song. And to keep in mind, the next 3 albums this is a trilogy. What I hated about this right off the bat, and this is the good album to me from the trilogy, is the concept is good versus evil. And I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, it's so broad, right? Like, why even have a concept at all at this point? But, they go with it. But this one is the last one that I would say sounded like he had some gas left, and I mean, it sounds good. There's very little variety in it. Not that that's saying that the rest of his catalog, I mean, they had a trick and they did it well, but now they're just doing this one thing. People love Lemmy for doing this, but like, I think with this, I don't know. It gets a little tired at this point. The drum sound is, I think it sounds like, 4 flat tires on a muddy road. You know what I mean? It's not as bouncy. It hasn't got the same punch.
The snare, though, the snare cuts. The snare cuts through the mix.
Yeah. I mean, it just. But I mean, again, great cover art. It passes the blind buy test.
Yeah.
But it also, I mean, at this point too, 95. What you got? The Gothenburgs. I mean, everything's passing this. Everything. I mean, they're not keeping up at this point. We're now hitting a new era of what people are listening to, and yeah, unfortunately, this is all right. It's middle of the road. It's all right, but if I had to put these 3 trilogy albums together, this here is Pink Floyd's The Wall compared to what's coming. There's rough seas ahead, people. Strap in. I guess it's about to get ugly.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, this album, there's some oddities to it. This is the first one after the EMI deal had wrapped up. So the previous 4 albums had EMI money, to kind of help support things. This one didn't. This one also hits at a time where the band was finally having some tension with Carl at Noise. That they weren't quite on the same page. The politics going on at Noise at this time and where Carl's head was at was getting pretty weird anyway. So relations were getting a little strained.
He was done with it. I think Carl was ready to be done.
Carl, yeah, especially, he was left, really, really bitter after things settled out with EMI. And he actually came out of that pretty well in terms of like final decision. He had been very careful how he handled that. So it's not like EMI ripped him off really bad. But still, having to deal with all of that for several years really left a sour taste in his mouth. And so, yeah, I think it's fair to say, getting around this time, Carl's probably checking out of the whole metal thing. So this album got recorded really fast. It was put together very quickly because Rolf knew it was time to jump ship. But he had 1 album left on the contract with Carl. So they put this one together. And that left them free agents. All of that said, I still really love this album. It has its faults, and Lee's exactly right. The sound here, there are some sound issues. The production, parts of it are good, but parts of it are kind of flat or a little muffly sounding. It can be a little muddy. The songwriting, it's not on the same level as Blackhand but it's not that far off. There's still a big focus. They're still playing extremely fast. The weird production makes some of the songs feel a bit heavier, which isn't a bad thing. And it still does have several tunes I'd say are pretty classic on here. Masquerade itself is a great opening tune. Soleil Royale is the song for me. Love that one. Wheel of Doom, Joshua just mentioned that one in the chat. That track is a crusher. But there are some songs that don't fully come together. And I agree with Lee. Like this time the intro, the contract, where it's just it is this very generic good and evil thing. It's like, but wait, they've been nailing it on these previous ones with the Black Hand Inn mythos, the Crystal Ball will reveal, and the Treasure Island epic. And here, yes, it just feels like there's a spooky voice talking to some generic, I guess they're supposed to be like Illuminati type guys.
Don't forget the song guys. Metalhead.
So there's, it's not, there's a few more things off here. So maybe it comes in, a little closer to like where Pile of Skulls is at. I still think it's an extremely good album. I still count it as, the streak is alive as far as I'm concerned. You have 9 albums here that are all still top notch. If we're teasing out differences, this one's going to come in a few slots lower than some of the other ones we've just talked about. But it's also the last one for Noise Records. This long-running relationship comes to an end here, and we'll see what happens next. But Marty, you get your shot at Masquerade before we do that.
This is just one of those records that you're at album number 9, right? There's no way you're going to come out and throw out an album that's going to compete with Death or Glory, or not going to happen. But I'm with Alan. I really like this record. I think it holds up really well. And I think the production, granted, I listened to most of this stuff this week on streaming services, and I'm sure in my CD copy is a Noise BMG reissue. So it's probably been retooled, but a noticeably brighter production kind of brings the material to life with more of an aggressive edge, even though there's a slickness to it. There's a very slick power in the guitar sound. And I really like the fact that snare, like I said, it cuts through the mix. Tracks on here, title track Rules, Black Soul, Lions of the Sea, Wheel of Doom. Just a great collection of songs with quicker tempos and a punch that really suits the band's style, I think, because I think, Running Wild they tend to stick in the mid tempo, plodding along the calm seas type of approach. But this, when they throw the faster double bass type stuff in there, it's a nice dynamic shift for me anyway, especially listening to so many records in a week. It's like when you hit those higher points, like, okay, something I can nod the head to a little bit more efficiently. But I enjoyed this record. I think it's good. And also next up on the list is The Rivalry, 1998 Gun Records. There's that there. Lee.
Yeah, I mean, the artwork doesn't match. I mean, if it's a trilogy, I want to see at least some type of thread that ties it all together. The only thread that I seem to think happens over these 3 albums is that each one gets there's a progressive downward quality to the writing, and also to this one here, they've abandoned at this point the power metal. I'm actually interested to see how long Alan hangs on. So this is a good album, but this might as well have been a glam album. I mean, Man on the Moon is a glam song. It wouldn't have been out of place in like a Skid Row album or something with a little bit more grittier rock sound. I mean, this seems to pop up now more frequently than not. I do not hear what they were before. This is tied, like I said, the artwork doesn't lend itself to say that this is part 2. It's a completely new album. It might as well have been a separate album. But if I'm listening to this as like, if you didn't have Running Wild on it, and it was something else, like I think I read somewhere that like if this was like a solo record, maybe. This is a great rock album. Like it's just a cool 4 to the floor rock album. And that's it. It's not what I would call a Running Wild album. and this is the cliff. I mean, this is pretty much where I think he's crossed his people. Maybe this might be the last one where they're like, no, screw this band. We're not coming back for the third part. But I mean, it sells well. It's actually a commercial success for them, believe it or not. But it's still a rock album. It's definitely not a Running Wild, not the Running Wild that I care to associate with. So I want to see, and I was actually interested where Alan comes in and takes this, because I don't know how you could make this fit. So please go ahead. I'm leaving it right there, Alan. It's all yours, and I'm going to listen intently.
Yeah, there is a change here for sure. Yeah, they are starting to leave a lot of the faster double bass stuff behind, and so yeah, they are leaning a little bit more, like you said, maybe in a rock direction. I think the album is still good. It's maybe a step down from where they've been. I still like this one overall, but there are some more cracks appearing here. Looking at the track list, Rivalry is still a great opener. It's still got that big chanty sing-along chorus that you want the band to have. Kiss of Death's a good follow-up to that. Fire Breather, still shows some real kick-ass headbanging energy. So the album gets off to a good start. But it does misfire at times. Track 4, Return of the Dragon, it never feels like it goes anywhere.
There's 13 songs on this album.
There's 13 songs. It's a 68-minute album. And so with that much material, it's easy for some, leftovers to start making it in the track list when they couldn't. Someone just mentioned, Ballad of William Kidd, good track. Adventure Galley, don't mind that one. Fire and Thunder, very good track. But I'm skipping around in the track list now. There's, some here I'm not mentioning that are, just not noteworthy. So I'm okay with this still being a good album. It's not on quite the same tier. I give the Rivalry about 8 out of 10, though. I think it's still a very solid album. They're 10 albums into their career. For me, they haven't missed a step. We've got 7 more albums to go. What could possibly go wrong?
Smooth sailing. Calm
Marty,
sea.
Marty, the Rivalry, before we keep smoothly sailing into album number 11.
Well, for me, we're getting ready for this. I went and grabbed the collection off the shelf and was going through the list and forgot I even had this record. So it's like, I think this is one of those albums that is often overlooked.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, throwing it in, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm kind of with Alan on this. I don't think it's a bit long. I do agree with that, but they're still continuing with a clear and powerful production, which empowers the well-written songs. I mean, he's not stepping out of bounds so much on this. There's some tracks on here that feel a bit more epic than songs maybe on the Masquerade. It's soaring guitar lines, man. At the heart of Running Wild, they've got to be there. And that's one thing that is sadly deficient as the catalog progresses. But tracks like The Rivalry, Fire Breather, Agents of Black, all sound out tracks for me. And I think people should give this one another shot. It's easy to get glossed over with all the fucking excellence that's before them, this record.
Yeah,
that's a great point, I forgot I even had it. So if this was like their third record, I don't think people would be poo-pooing it that much, because it's not that far out of bounds. All right.
Smooth sailing. Nothing but smooth sailing ahead.
Speaking of, let's go to their 11th album here. Victory came out in 2000 on Gun Records. Oh boy. Lee.
Yeah. We should all just look at it. The cover is horrible. It's Windows, like it's a checkerboard. It's with a flag and the thing, and that's exactly, the cover is how I feel about the album. The big thing on this one is the gentleman Angelo Sasso. All right, Angelo Sasso became a running joke because but to this day now, has Rolf ever admitted this was a drum machine? Because he said it was
a guy that didn't want to be brought up much, and he died in 2007 for a heart attack, which means Rolf had a power surge. He had a power surge and blew up the drum machine. Anyway, go ahead.
It's that guy that you know, who's got a girlfriend but she lives in Canada. You know what I mean? That's what this drum is. Dude, it's a drum machine. You can hear it. It's so. I mean, being a drummer, you can. I mean, look, again, it can be triggers, and the way that they were doing albums, they thought they were stuck in the 80s. But when you hear the drum rolls, there's no ghost notes. There's nothing. It's just it's so plainly a machine playing these, or it's triggers that are just dialed in.
You can tell it's a guitarist programming a drum machine because there's no feel in any. There's no feel in the tom fills, or there's very few tom fills. It's just a very soulless, cold, following the beat. It's very lifeless, and it really. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
I'm talking out of turn here. I'm so fucking pissed off by this record.
However, there is that which it caught my ear. Like I'm working while I'm listening to this. Now the song "When Time Runs Out" might as well be Wasp's "Wild Child," right? It's got that feel to it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Where's this going? It's not as good as Wild Child. And funny thing is, like I said, I hate the cover at the start, and then 2/3 of the way down, if you can see it, I just put "fuck that cover." I couldn't get past how poor it is, considering that it seems like they've taken such great pride in the majority of their album covers having this, you know, artists do them all, and then suddenly you get this. It feels like such a kick in the ass. And I mean, look, this is the boyfriend that comes home and punches you in the face, and he promises never to do it again. This is this album, you know what I mean? So you can rather get up and leave now or whatever. But I mean, again, right at the end, artwork shows me that at this point they do not care. And that's how I feel. As soon as I hear the drum machine, I'm like, all right, well, there's the point off there. The songs are forgettable. The cover is a piece of shit. The production's like whatever.
A lot of ideas.
Yeah, this is the tank running dry, and maybe, you know, they've already put 2 albums of it. A trilogy needs 3 releases. Unfortunately, this is the last one, and it's thank God it's the last one of this, but not the end of shit.
All right. Alan.
Gentlemen, I'm sad to report that the HMS Adrian has strayed into waters dangerously close to Hurricane Alice territory. It is feared that all souls aboard are lost. In a moment of silence, please, for our fallen pirate comrades.
Cue the Edmund Fitzgerald song.
Yeah. Victory. Everything Lee said, and then some, pretty much. I don't care whether it's a drum machine or a guy who couldn't play drums. It's horrible either way. I don't think Rolf's making it any better by pretending it's a real person. This album is just not good. It's the first time I've said that all night. This is album number 11. The 10 albums before this, I wouldn't rank a single one of them lower than like a B or a 8 out of 10. And now here we are. Yeah, cover art's atrocious. Songs feel very uninspired, very flat, very listless. There are a couple of exceptions. It's not a total loss. We can salvage a little bit of the flotsam and jetsam here.
2 songs for me. I'm curious what 2 you pick.
My 2 songs. There are 2 in particular I would gravitate towards. When Time Runs Out, which Lee mentioned, and The Guardian. These are the 2 tracks I think. Okay, there are some others I think are. Let's see. I would give Time Riders is also all right, and The Hussars not bad. Yeah. So I can get to 4 tracks, I guess. However, the 4 points they get for those tracks are immediately counteracted by a score of -5 for a goddamn Beatles cover right in the middle of the album.
Oh, 5, track 5.
For no reason.
5. So you want a revolution? No, sir, I really don't. I'm quite happy with the status quo. Please leave it alone. No revolution needed here. We're good. Nice, quiet, middle-class existence. We're just fine. Please take your revolution elsewhere. I mean, I mean, how many cover songs? You know, they've done cover songs before, but they're usually like, you know, B-sides.
EPs.
And they're usually good.
Yeah.
And here it's a Beatles throwback number. I'm can't be on board with this. Just lower the little dinghy over the side. I'll quietly get in, and paddle my way over to Treasure Island and hang out there. It's a bad album. It's not just that it's not good. It is a bad album. Like I said, there's a handful of songs that make it passable. I'm not going to give it like an F or a 0 out of 10 or anything, because there's a few moments here that are okay, but man, is it a disappointment. And with email chains and stuff this week, Lee, you kind of asked if I had any ideas like what happens around this point, because this is not the only bad album we're about to talk about. I don't know for sure, but I have to wonder if there was something going on with Gun Records. I'm going to blame the label a bit here, and not just because of this. If folks are unfamiliar, Gun Records got started up by a couple of guys who worked for Carl at Noise, or at least one guy from Noise, and the other guy might have been at a different label. But bottom line was, Bernie Kopech had worked for a long time with Noise. He was very close to a lot of the bands there. And like I said, this is around the time when a lot of bands were very unhappy with the situation on Noise and were looking to get off the label. Bernie set up Gun Records as his own label and basically immediately poached all these bands off the classic Noise roster who were parting ways with Carl. So good business decision on his part. You're immediately getting, a core stable of name acts. Running Wild moves over there. Creator moves over there. Sodom moves over there. Who am I forgetting? Rage moves over there. Gravedigger ends up there. I don't know if Gravedigger had been with Noise the whole time or not. Gravedigger's catalog I'm not as familiar with, but basically Gun inherits all these veteran German metal bands. Now think about the albums those bands put out when they got onto Gun. Here are and I made a quick list so I wouldn't have to just try to reel them off. Apologies if one or maybe a couple of these were only licensed to Gun, but here's where these bands were at when they got to Gun. Creator, Cause for Conflict, Outcast, Rage. You have Lingula Mortis, 13, and Ghost. That is not the prime part of the Rage catalog for most folks.
Still good though. I mean,
Rage gets by a little better than some, but compared to like Trapped and Unity and Soundshape, the albums that bookend the Gun years are much better. With Sodom, you get Till Death Do Us Unite, which is it's not a terrible album, but it's a weird album in the Sodom discography. What else is on my list over here? Paradise Lost, I think, ends up on Gun or associated with Gun for the self-titled album, which is kind of the very early phases of them trying to reboot their career after their electronic albums. And Running Wild ends up on here with, the Rivalry, I think, was okay. The Rivalry is one of the exceptions to the rule. But now with Victory and what we're about to talk about, every one of these bands seemed to get onto Gun Records and immediately fell to pieces. That can't be coincidence. It can't be that Raw and Angel Ripper and all these other guys just all of a sudden all spontaneously ran out of ideas and put out subpar records. I've got to think that something was going on with Gun that was hamstringing them. I mean, if nothing else, the label has to be responsible for some of this shit artwork that starts happening. Even with the Rivalry, that's not a great cover either. Think of all the albums I just named. The Sodom album. A fat guy and a pregnant lady with a skull between their bellies. The fuck? So I blame the Gun Records has always been on my shit list because I feel like a lot of the bands went over there and nothing good happened to most of them. Rage, the Rage albums aren't as bad as some others. It seems like Gravediggers may be the one band that actually kind of found their voice around that time. Tunes of War and stuff came out on Gun. But all these other bands that had been doing great stuff, are suddenly not doing great stuff. So gun records, I'm going to blame you because someone's got to pay for these crimes, and I'm pointing the gun at you. All right, I've ranted enough about Victory. Marty, what do you think of Victory? You into chessboards?
I think your label assessment is probably part of it. And, hearing that Rolf was difficult to deal with, going through a bunch of different drummers, a bunch of different lineup, finally just kind of coming to the fact that I'm just going to program the drums myself. As a guy that has worked with drum machines growing up, could never find a drummer in Northern Michigan to save my life. Drum machines are fantastic for electronic music. They are part of the synth essence. They accentuate each other well. When you go in with old drum machine technology and try to program it like in a metal context, I will say you could go with a drum machine and lay down AC/DC drum beats till your dick falls off, and it's going to sound passable. It'll be fine. But you start trying to do metal, triplets, double bass shit. Tom rolls that feel human. There's humanization shit going on. You're just not going to get it there. You're following the beat. Everything is too perfect. And that's what has happened with this. So you have a guitarist who's not a drummer sitting down, writing basic rock drum beats in a metal context. It just doesn't work. And luckily for Rolf, over the years, this technology has really advanced. Nowadays, there's something called Tune Track. They kind of revolutionized the whole thing. Superior Drummer. Basically, here's a little side. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. They pay these big metal drummers to go into a studio and record a whole bunch of different drum beats, all different tempos. So, and then they put them in a package which you can buy, and you can like pull these actual MIDI drum beats in, and boom, you've got an actual real recorded drummer in a studio. And you can manipulate these drum patterns any way you want. You can keep them as is, or you can fart around with the MIDI notes to make this fill go a certain way. It's amazing. And a lot of, an ear, there's a sound to it, and a trained ear can hear it. But a lot of cases you're fooling. You can fool people if you bury it in the production a little bit, you do some things to humanize it a little bit. There's all these little tricks you can do to make it sound a little less out of the box. It's not during this era. It's not during the whole thing. And even in the modern era, Rolf is dinking around with this stuff that he's used to using. So he's still using the old technology. You can tell the last album. Anyway, we'll get there. Sorry for my rant, but I'm just saying there's a soullessness to the drum programming on here that really, it inspires. If you have a really awesome drummer, you're inspired to play with that drummer. It could subconsciously shift the feel in some of your playing when everything is so milquetoast, flat, dead, like a fucking flat line. That's the riffs it's going to inspire out of you. So I'm listening to this. There's 2 tracks on here that perk up my ears. Time Riders. Okay. Time Riders is a ripping track. I really like that one. And I also like Czar quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
And my notes say "fuck forever off" for the Beatles cover of Revolution. I mean, this is, once the smoke cleared, there was a hole in the bow that just the ship wasn't going to make it back to port. It's just the Beatles cover in the middle of your album. If you like the Beatles, great. I respect people that like them. I don't get it. I'm a Kiss guy, even though the Beatles influenced everybody. Sabbath, Kiss, all of them. I'm just not a Beatles guy. And a metal band covering Beatles, it makes me mad. It makes me mad.
Yep.
It makes me mad.
But you know what? Marty, at the same time, they did 10 great albums in a row. There's just one blip on the radar here. Surely we get back on track with the next album.
And I will say something about that too. This is album 11. Okay.
Yeah.
And hold someone's foot to the fire to be fucking awesome all the time when you're the main songwriter. When you're a fan of a band, you enter into a contract with the band. I love this band. I'm a Kiss fan. I've bought every Kiss album eventually. And based on how they made me feel when I was a child. Okay. Even though I may not like the record when I buy it, I still try to convince myself in my head as a fan that I do like the album. And I think that's it's not maybe fair to the fans. but it's the contract you enter into. And Running Wild, they really have not tripped up at all up to album number 11. And you're hoping that he can right the ship. You're hoping things can change. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's okay.
Just one bad album. It's still good.
It's okay. I mean, there's a couple good songs on here. You know, it's all good.
I'm getting the pirate rag back on.
Put it down.
We're ready for the next one.
Represent. Here we go. We're going
patch up the ship. Hoist the mainsail. Back out to sea.
We're going back out to sea with their 12th album, The Brotherhood.
Scrub the poop deck. Poop on the scrub deck. Come on,
2002 Gun Records. And
let's go.
Poop is a good analogy here. Lee, what do you think about Brotherhood?
All right, so look, the engine's on fire, but we're still moving forward on this one. All right, so the drum machine is still in place. However, the artwork gives you a little bit of glimmer of hope that, you know, we've thrown off the shackles of the trilogy, and we have the pirate skull back on the front cover again. All right, so there's that little bit of hope. And again, it's this I kind of got some Painkiller vibes on. It was maybe not on all the songs, but there was a few songs where I'm like, all right, okay, maybe we've course corrected, right? The wind's at our tail, and we've got our, you know, full head of steam back. And yeah, I mean, it does. There's a few. I mean, look, what have I wrote here? Crossfire isn't a bad song, but now we're talking like I'm trying to find reasons that it's all right. And I think that's where the issues come with these albums, and that very quickly runs out. It's like I'm saying, you know, okay, it's got some Painkiller vibes. That's kind of cool, right? Like, okay, we're good. You know, Crossfire's okay. You know, but I mean, again, like, look, this is the age of Slipknot at this point. Like, we're really the landscape of the music scene is completely changed. To Rolf's credit, he still hasn't heard a lick of music since maybe 1986. So, I mean,
last
good
year's
on him.
Pre-album you bought.
Yeah, I mean, good on him for that. That's pretty much where I'm stopping. I mean, look, and what must be sad for him at this point is that this album was like potentially maybe and this is an estimate, only sold tens of thousands, which is, it sounds like a lot, but when you're a band has sold 1 million albums of one title, and then 500,000, then 3 million, to sell tens of thousands, like, the world has pretty much left you behind. And I mean, like, this was one of those valiant efforts to try and pick it back up. I think he really did course correct to a point. He just didn't go true north. He was kind of like maybe a northeaster or something, but he's not. It's not a return to form. It's just not the rival, you know. Like, sorry, the Victory album, and that's where I catch myself going, look, I'm just trying to say now, this album isn't as bad as the last one.
Yeah. It isn't.
Where before we were saying, well, this album isn't as good as the last one, but the albums still kick ass. But we're comparing them against great albums, Jolly Roger and Death and Glory and all that stuff. But now we're comparing them to complete dog shit, like The Rivalry. Sorry, Alan, I know you put your hat back on, but I think this deserves a hat. I really do. And if I had one, I'd join you. But we're still not out of the dark yet. And this fucking drum machine. At this point, it's really starting to rub me that it's a drum machine. I can't excuse it anymore. So the songs aren't even really giving it that. But it did have some Painkiller vibes. So let's leave it on a positive, because everything else isn't great. But the album cover's all right.
Right on.
Well, we kind of might have put this back on a little prematurely here. Yeah, the Brotherhood. I mean, and I think Joshua just made a comment that's really emblematic of some of the problems here. You know, yes, they're doing pirate stuff again. There's a pirate song on here. It's called Pirate Song. The chorus goes, "Don't sing along to the pirate song." I mean, they've done adaptations of Treasure Island. Rolf has researched, you know, William Kidd and Calico Jack and tried to put, you know, biographical stuff into songs before. And now we're reduced to bouncing along to the pirate song. It's like the fucking Oompa Loompa song. Bouncing along, doopity-doo. We've got another pirate song for you. Fuck that song. That sucks. You can do so much better than that. And we know they can because this. The album does sound okay. I'll give it one thing. The album does sound a little better production-wise than Victory. And yes, this is still kind of a lame. This is a lazy cover, but it's at least not a checkerboard. So I guess it's a step in the right direction, but it's a small one. And for anything that, sounds okay, like, Crossfire's like, okay, that song's not too bad. But then you have, it's immediately offset by something like Detonator. I'm sorry, Detonator. What are you, a robot? Now Rolf's also turned in. We've got a vocal machine to go with the drum machine. Detonator. What are you, Mr. Roboto? No, it's horrible. There's one bright spot on this album for me. One real standout that could have been on one of the classic albums. And it's dead center in the middle. And it's the instrumental track, Siberian Winter. That track rages. It's everything you want to hear from Black Hand In or Death or Glory era Running Wild. It is a phenomenal track. And you know what? It pisses me off because it proves Rolf can still write that kind of music. It's not like he's completely lost his muse or something, or that he's completely gone in a different direction. If Siberian Winter went on here, we might say like, yeah, okay, he's got writer's block. Yeah, okay, he's just not feeling it. No, he can do it if he wants to, because it's right there in the middle of the track list. All these songs around it, he chose not to do it. He chose to make them very mediocre. And that pisses me off, because the proof is there. It could have been an album of Siberian Winters. And instead, it's one Siberian Winter and Detonator. Detonator. Fuck this album. Marty, go ahead.
Yeah, also there's like two people listed in the lineup. If the one is even true, who knows? But there's
we
no
are down to
there's no brotherhood here. This goes back to my
no hands are on deck.
The no hands are on deck. This is the brotherhood. He's playing the contract I say you enter into with a band that you're a fan of. Hey, Brotherhood of Running Wild, remember us? Remember Running Wild? Check out our new album. We have a new album coming out. It's Running Wild. This is a Brotherhood, metal Brotherhood. Come on, guys. Well,
yeah.
I really don't care how galvanized your formula is and how long of a run you've had. Man, it just can't save the idea of this galvanized formula and what the band was. It just can't save bland songwriting over an unwavering synthetic tempo. No. It just feels tired and uninspired. I mean, is it an absolute cataclysm of a record? I mean, there's some riffs and there's some stuff here and there that's like, yeah, okay, but it's just not enough, and it's long. No. We're moving on to another one I don't own. Number 13, their 13th album, Rogues and Vogue. Oh, there we go. Get Alan up there so we can see the cover. 2005 on Gun Records.
Gun. How bad can it be?
What you got, Lee?
Well, to my research, this is about the same time Gun's gone kaput, right? So they're about to close shop, because I think looking through their entire catalog, all their albums kind of stop at 2005. So I don't know.
It's somewhere around 2005, 2006. Yeah, I think they're
so this is pretty much it. So. And I mean, again, like, because I'm such, the visual guy, I looked at the cover and I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. Then there's those little skeleton figures on the side and it looks like a pendant. And it's a mess. Okay. And then you hit Draw the Line, followed by Angel of Mercy. I think that's out. And they are bad, like really bad. At this point, this is like just a rock album. It's not a good rock album. He used to write some really cool, sleazy, gritty rock riffs, and now it's just like it's pop. It's bad pop. It's like it's Eurovision Song Contest material, and there's no quality control. He has to be writing by himself. at some point I read that like the people that were in the band didn't want to be recognized that they played in the band. Like, I don't know, unless that album is shocking and they just, I don't know who would say that. But they must have looked at this and gone, this is dog shit. His vocals are suffering at this point. I don't know if it's some age or it's just he's just getting tired. There's so many things that are just falling over. You can, the old throw a dart, pick a number out of the hat. It's a bad song. I really do believe that there is zero good songs on this thing, and they're not one's bad than the other. They're just all bad. The review. I mean, look, I was trying to find positives, and so I looked outside, and there was a few people that held true. I guess one of them might have been you, Alan, that said, "No, it's a solid record." But looking at your hat, I think that you probably agree with that this is a piece of shit. But I think I have to kind of think that maybe he wrote this himself and thought that maybe there was no one quality controlling this, and drum machines. Revolving door of people may or may not have played on it.
Drum machines are really, the old school ones are very good at killing creativity because they take so much time to labor over and program the drum beats. So it's very time intensive. And if you're not good at it or you're not a drummer, anyway, sorry.
The guitars have that ram it down kind of feel to it, which was surprising because I really like ram it down, and the most shocking part about this thing sold over 500,000 copies in 2005. That's crazy, right? I mean, considering you guys like the Victory, and that one didn't even come close. And this one here, and if I'm not mistaken, is this the album where he's kind of gone, yeah, I'm done?
Let me tell you why. Lee. I have a theory here. I think in what year did this come out? 2005.
Yep.
People have been so overburdened by death metal, which they gave way to black metal. This is about the time where I started to say, I am tired of the negativity. I'm tired of the culty McCult fucking, posturing. I started coming back to heavy metal. I started coming back to my roots around this time. I started to love melody again. And what more, if you're an old metal fan that maybe drifted away into the more heavy spectrum of music, coming back to your roots. Oh, Running Wild's got a new record. I'm going to check this out now. That might be a, public perception. Metal's getting older. It's starting to shift back around. Everything's cyclical. Sorry. Go ahead. That's just a theory. Who knows? No,
I mean, I think, look, I didn't think of it like that. I kind of look at it as like, okay, if you were sticking with this band, it kind of feels like I wanted this to be back on track just when I heard that guitar tone. It's got that, like I said, it's got the ram it down thing. I think that's like a great Judas Priest era when they really had that synthesized guitar sound. But yeah, it's a great sound with all the shit songs. So, you know what I mean? I just did not like it. And if I don't think gun to my head, I could tell you a name of a song that's on here because it's just so forgettable. I didn't even take the time to write it down. Right, okay, title track. I'm being lazy, but there you go. Docking. Next.
All right. Alan.
Yeah. One other thing that may have helped the sales on this one a little bit, with it being 2005, and I know this was my experience with it too, this was the first time I ordered a Running Wild new release through Amazon. So all of a sudden, because Running Wild was always a hard band to find albums by in the US. Folks were talking about that in the chat, even at the very beginning of the night, how like Hattori mentioned, he'd only ever found one Running Wild album in the wild. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. But yeah, when this one, got announced as coming out, the ones before it, I was like, oh God, where am I going to have to find an import or deal with like a specialty dealer like Sentinel Steel or someone to get a copy? With Rogues and Vogue, it was like, oh, I can just hop on Amazon and order it. So it was a lot easier to get this one in some territories. And so that may also pair with what Marty mentioned with a lot of folks. Yeah, Iron Maiden was back on track by this point. Traditional metal was more popular. Maybe Running Wild got a little boost from that.
Hold on one second, Alan. Mike's thing here.
Oh, sure.
Live, on the other hand, he always delivered really great during the 2000s because he hired a band. Here's another concept. What is happening in Europe during the 2000s? These small festivals, things like Wacken, are starting to explode. Metal's getting more popular. It isn't just Wacken, it's all these other surrounding festivals. The attendance is off the hook. You put 50,000 people in a field and have Running Wild go up there and fucking rule. Running Wild live doesn't sound like the Brotherhood or Rogues in Vogue.
No,
it's not the same. And they're going up there playing the hits. So people come off this show the week after, they're going to the store like, I gotta get me some fucking Running Wild. What's new on the shelf? Rogues in Vogue. Boom. Get that bitch home and start spinning. That's another, the live
that's a good
thing,
point, Marty. Yeah.
Bigger festivals, metal is on the upswing again. Sorry, go ahead.
No, very
Thanks
good point.
for that, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's kind of funny. My take's almost a little bit backwards from Lee's on this one. Lee kind of likes the guitar tone, but not a lot of the songs. I think there are some songs here that are okay, but I think the guitar tone is all wrong for these songs because you're right. It's got that kind of mid to late 80s, really thin guitar sound. And that just doesn't work for Running Wild's music, in my opinion. It worked okay for Priest. I agree. I don't mind stuff like, the Turbo era of Priest.
I don't either. I don't mind Ram It Down. None of it.
Yeah, Ram It Down has some clunkers, but it has some great tracks.
Johnny Be Good.
Blood Red Skies. Come on.
Yeah, now we're talking.
There you go. See?
Yeah. I don't think that gets that really kind of thin, cheap guitar sound just doesn't work for Running Wild on here. And it does make the album kind of forgettable. Lee, you mentioned it, forgettable, and I agree. This album ends up being kind of forgettable because it lacks power. It doesn't have that guitar tone to give the songs any oomph. Why I don't rank this album quite as badly as the past couple, I think the album does manage to start well and end well. Not amazing. Now, we're not talking great, but we're talking like decent, fine. Like, track 2, Angel of Mercy, I actually don't mind. Track 3, Skeleton Dance, okay, also passable. The middle of the album is very forgettable for me, but Joshua mentioned it. The bonus tracks, and which are on my version, you get, towards the end, you get Dead Man's Road and The War, which are not bad. And there's 2 really good bonus tracks on it called Libertania and Cannonball Run. So it's kind of a situation where it's like, okay, you got a couple of songs I'm okay with at the start, and like 3 or 4 that wrap it up at the end. So it's a pattern Marty and I have talked about. If you're going to have a mediocre album, you at least want to have a good song or 2 to kick it off, and you want to end strong. And I feel like this album, at least they were smart enough to put the best songs at the start and at the end, and let all the really, really generic stuff kind of, just fill out the middle. Not a great record. An album this is one I tend to forget about. Marty, you mentioned you forget about like the Rivalry. I forget about Rogues in Vogue. But I still own a copy of it. I do keep it around. It's still kind of disappointing as a Running Wild album. It would still rank really low if we put all 17 of these in order. But compared to the things around it, it's okay. I'll give it a really kind of unenthusiastic okay, I guess, at the end of the day. Marty, your take on this one?
I don't have my. I think it's more of the same, and it's funny because a drummer is listed. Matthias Lie Be Truth is the last name, and the lie.
No message there.
The lie is it's a drummer because it's in more machine patterns. It does little to invigorate the rehashed ideas on display here. I'm sorry. I heard this album for the first time this week, and I struggled hard to get through it. I should have.
It's another long album.
It's a long album. I should have started with the back half of the catalog first and went backwards to the good stuff. But I started with the great stuff, lived in that realm for most of the week, and then by the time I was experiencing Running Wild fatigue, it was into the bad stuff, and it really, really, really bad.
The good news here is this is the last of the Gun albums. They get off of Gun and move over to long-running pure metal label Steamhammer. So how bad can it be?
Well, there's a 7-year gap here. For the longest time, Rolf was saying that this is it. We're done.
Yeah.
2012 comes out on Steam Hammer, Shadowmaker, the comeback album. Lee.
I was trying to think of a joke. Do you remember the Spinal Tap shark sandwich? And the review was shit sandwich. So this is the what is it? The day late and the dollar short. So in 2005, they're starting to get this. Like the festivals are coming back, and then this band puts out the album, sells well, and then quits. This is the point where they come back a little bit early, because the year after that is the year of all the We're Back albums, right? Black Sabbath has come back. There was a bunch of other ones I wrote down. Like there's so many bands that do reunion tours, but we've already blown our load in 2012 with a horrible album. They at this point classify as a legacy act, but this is the album where the bass player and the drummer didn't want to be identified. But this is a horrible piece of shit, and I think this is where he kind of strips it all down. He's trying to now make a very earthy type of metal record, and it doesn't sound. I mean, the production's all right, but it doesn't sound good. And a good production couldn't really help this. I mean, whatever happened to the guy's songwriting? He's lost it. And then this is a comeback album. Like this is when he feels better about, coming back without all the pressure and everything. And he even said like this album, he could spend as long as he wanted to write it. But Shadowmaker was the result. And I would have hibernated for another year, and potentially come back with the next album. But I mean, it's like I want to say something positive, but the cover is horrible. It's just this horrible silver fucking mask, and I love the logo. There you go. There's my positive. I still love the Running Wild logo. It still burns something in me where it's still an exciting logo, but because now I've been slapped so many times, and you keep coming back with here's my new gift. I'm sorry I hit you. You just keep hitting me in the face. Like you're not giving me anything which is going to prove to me that you're going to get better. I think it's at this point, a sane person would have walked away, right? Filed for divorce and walked the fuck out, because this is shocking. Shocking. Up to you, Alan. Save it.
Well, folks on Discord and chat tonight have asked, will Alan rant about Shadowmaker? Alan will rant about Shadowmaker. Your wish is my command. First off, the cover art. It looks like Adrian got fucked by Starscream and they had the ugliest baby imaginable. What the fuck is this? And this is on Steam Hammer. Steam Hammer's had some weird covers before, but my God, it really does look like the My Little Pony version of the Transformer Decepticon logo or some shit. That's already hideous. And then you try listening to the music. Lee, you really nailed it. Rolf seems to have just gone below decks, curled up into a little fetal position under his bunk, and he's regressed back into teenage Rolf stage, where he's just going to try to make something that sounds like one of the earliest Accept demos. It's very stripped back. It's very simple. It's beyond formulaic. It's his nod to, again, really early Accept and stuff that might have, would have been inspiring him to, work with a band in the late 70s and the early 80s. And it's absolutely fucking horrible. Long-term fans may remember my critique of Manowar's God of Steel. If so, there's a nice Easter egg here for you. This album sonically is the equivalent of you were on deck on the ship, and then a shark jumps out of the water, grabs you, drags you under, and eats you. Later, the shark shits you out, and then a bigger shark comes along, eats the shit from the first shark, and shits it out again. That is Shadow. I can't even remember the name of the album. It's Shadow something. Is it Shadow Moor, Shadow Lord, Shadow? I don't even fucking care. Running Wild is my third most favorite band of all time. We did the math on an episode a year or two ago. We ranked our top bands. Running Wild is my third favorite band of all time. There are only 2 bands I like more. 10 albums in a row were fantastic. I had a chance to buy this for $3 soon after it came out, and I said, no
I would have bought it just because I'm a scum.
no fucking way will I ever pay money for a copy of this album. I don't own the CD. I don't own it digitally. I didn't even trade for a copy with like CDR trading or free downloads. I do not want this pile of shit music in my house, on my computer, in my collection, anywhere. This album blows dog sharks for quarters. There's your rant, everybody. You Velamex and Devin, I hope I lived up to expectations.
Devin says, after hearing this, I feel like I owe an apology to Chameleon.
Well played, Devin. Well played. Marty, you want to buck the trend here? Contrarian, maybe?
Running, there's no shame. I mean, let's Kiss. We keep coming up. It happens. Kiss has been playing most of the songs on Destroyer ever since Destroyer has come out. They knew where their bread was buttered, and as they got older and they got different people in the band, they were encouraged to play more deep cuts, which is fun. But Kiss didn't need to put out Sonic Boom. They didn't need to put out Monster. They could have just toured the world as Kiss, doing the Kiss thing, playing the 70s albums until they died. And I kind of feel that at this point in the game, Rolf had established such an amazing wealth of rich, beautiful, amazing, melodically advanced in songwriting. He had amassed such a catalog. He could have got the best band together. He could have went out and did it, put out live records, reissued stuff, gone on this, done the thing, kept his legacy alive until he didn't want to do it anymore, and then had such a humongous following. He could have just lived off forever off the reissues and stuff. Having said that, I do respect older bands still wanting to go through the motions and want to try to put out something new. And it's a bummer that after 14 albums, you're just so plumb out of ideas or just burn out. I mean, it's got to happen eventually. How many notes and riffs and harmony lines and lyrics and bullshit that has been gone through to get to album number 14. But having said that, Shadowmaker, the comeback album, 2012, it sounds like a different band. He has completely dropped the lush, beautiful melody lines. He's gone to the hard rock thing. It's an album that it's dry sounding because of the production, because of the drums. Uninteresting, uninspired crunch riffs. He's resorted back to his rock roots. He's in the crunch riff thing. This album makes Accept look like Atheist. That's how I feel about this. It's just the riffs he's handing up are just so pedestrian. It's just so pedestrian. His voice, the test of time, years of singing live, doing the thing, getting older. The vocal cords just don't, they're not as malleable as they once were. He does the work. It still sounds like Rolf, but it's, there's obvious cracks, and this album it's not great. Which brings us to the 15th album, 2013's Resilient on Steamhammer. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Lee.
Resilient. Okay.
Resilient.
So I noticed a few things about this. First off, I thought when I first heard the first song, when the first song kicked in, the guitar tone's back. I'm like, okay, we're good. We're in good shape.
Yep.
But the title track, and I challenge anyone out there, if you want to do this, just to, have a look at this, but Resilient is actually Smoke on the Water. Just play it a little quicker. Okay, so not note for note, not the big, dun, dun, dun. It's not that. It's the vocal phrasing. I think you could take the vocals off this, put Smoke on the Water on this, and it would perfectly fit. And I tried it, and it fits. So this, I think right now, he's doing his deep purple. He's listening to a lot of stuff.
Old rock
you know,
shit that influenced him. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
so he's on that, but I picked it up and it was like, fuck, it took me 20 minutes to try and find where's that vocal passage. Like, I know it just as it goes into the chorus. Hear it. It's like unmistakably Smoke on the Water. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, that could be my ears because it isn't note for note. But then just a song or two away, there's a song called Adventure Highway. Well, guess what that has in it? Deep Purple had a fucking song called Strange Ways, and the keyboard lick in that, I guess you would call it, is the guitar lick in Adventure Highway. Prove me wrong, because that shit is 100%. I went and fucking played them both side by side. It's uncanny. It's the same song.
Wow.
It's amazing. I started really getting deep into this now, because now I'm like, shit, what else have they ripped off, right? And they keep going. So, as I said before, this is the comeback year now. They've blown it on that, but this album isn't bad. But now that I've heard these things, I can't unhear them. So it's now I'm saying, I think they ripped this off. Like, I think he's just been, the well is dry. He needs something. He's heard this, and I've got to bring this. I've got to make some songs. It's better than Shadowmaker. All right. With all my mumbling and trying to find these words, it's better than Shadowmaker. But Desert Rose, I think, is a great AC/DC song. All right. I really think that riff is an AC/DC riff. If this was an 80s, end of glam era, going into the more harder Gunners style of stuff, I would say this is a great album, but it's not. It's fucking Running Wild in 2013. And I mean, again, they're still playing big festivals, so it's a weird thing. They're not putting out great albums. They're still playing big festivals, and they're I guess that's because of the comeback, and they're probably cheaper than getting Sabbath, and they're still selling albums, like no slacking off. It blows my mind that they can continually do this. And Fireheart is also it's Hellbent for Leather. So there's 4 songs on this, which are 4 other people's songs. So
yep, he's drowning in his influence here, which isn't.
Yeah.
You get older, you want to go back to better, happier times. It's just the way I get it. But yeah, he forgot to add all the melody
it's
lines.
not shit. It's yeah. I mean, he's no singer like Halford.
No,
he's definitely no Ian Gillan, but he can do enough to get the message across. And I don't think this is a bad album. I just don't think that it's a good album, but it's better. We're in a middle ground here.
Yep. Alan.
Yeah, you guys, nailed it on the head. He's just emulating his influences here. He's like, what did I like to listen to as a kid? That's what I'll emulate on this album.
Fine. All of them do it.
Yeah, but as Lee said, here he's not. I mean, he's not doing it in a particularly good way. It feels cheap. It feels kind of like knockoff. Really good detective work, Lee, picking out where he's pulling some of these ideas from. He's not even trying to mask it. He's not like, oh, I want to make something that sounds like Deep Purple or Accept or Priest. I'm just going to write something that's, I'm just going to take one of their songs and kind of, put it back together a little bit. Feels very lazy. Is it better than Shadow Pooper? Yes. That's a really low bar to clear. I mean, that's a chunk of shark poop sitting on the bottom of the ocean. Anything can clear that bar. It's better than that, but I don't think it's a particularly great album. It's still at this point, this was it for me. Now, this was any band can crap the bed once, but when we've talked. There's been several rough Running Wild albums, but I always found a little bit here, a little bit there. There was something. This is 2 Running Wild albums back to back where I'm just like, he's toast. I won't forgive a band for 2 bad albums back to back very often. So at this point, I was just like, please just retire. Please just go away. Please don't pretend to make another album. You clearly don't want to make Running Wild albums anymore. And I don't want to buy Running Wild albums that don't sound like Running Wild albums. So I was done with the band at this point.
You forgot the agreement, Alan. That's not how this works.
No, I am a fickle fan. I will not hang with you forever. Again, a little up and down, fair enough, but this is 2 in a row that did nothing for me. So the honeymoon's over, the marriage is off, whatever metaphor we want to go with. Marty, your take on Resilient?
Perhaps it was just because Shadowmaker is so bad that this album felt like a bright spot.
It had to feel better.
It had to feel better. It feels at the time like it's perhaps one of the more lively of the Reformation albums. There's some decent tracks on here. Rolf's trying to sing into his higher register again, upper register, for some effect and variety in the songs, which is good because, again, we got the drum machine, and it's not a horrible album, but it's not getting played a whole lot. We're just going to say that, which brings us to 2016, 3 years later. We've got Rapid Foray out on Steamhammer. Looks like a Running Wild record.
Kinda.
Yeah. Lee.
Where was it? I picked something. Okay, so now that I've gone through my detective work, and let's just say like that Adventure Highway, I didn't know that it just sounded old. Strange Ways, Adventure Highway. I didn't know that Strange Ways would have that lick in it. I just found a song that looked like the same type of title, and I found it. So at this point, we're wholesaling. Now he did this again on this album. Now this is a little bit more harder edged than Resilient, which was good because it was harder. I mean, I thought Resilient was harder edged than Shadow Shitter or whatever the fuck we're calling it. I thought Warmonger is a great song. Okay. Stick to Your Guns is a great hard rock song. Well written. At least it's a well written song.
Yeah.
But then we get to By the Blood in Your Heart. Right. This has 2 songs in it that don't fit together. The riff is Shout at the Devil. Right. The chorus is that, that Rhythm of Your Heart song, the Rod Stewart, Rhythm of My Heart, beating like a drum. That's the chorus in this song. We've got Shout at the Devil into Rod Stewart. I don't know how he thought you wouldn't figure this out, but it's not even hidden. It's
I always knew Rod Stewart was evil, so it makes sense.
Well, the only thing I can justify it is that at least Vince Neil he liked Rod Stewart, and I don't know if at this point Rolf is even taking that into an account, but it just so happens that it's 2 songs. The band he's got at this point are actually pretty good. The drummer in the band at the time is like a full-on studio guy. He's played with 1,000,001 bands of all different genres. He's a professional. The bass player isn't. He's in a band called CUNT, believe it or not, and then he played with Running Wild. But this isn't bad. It's just I'm now like a dog with a bone. Like I want to find out why it's doing what it's doing. But hey, at least it's heavier than Resilient and better than Shadowmaker. All right, so all we got is pluses. I feel. Take it away, Alan, because that was all I had, man. That was now I'm just trying to pick the influences.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, so they come back. When they announced the album, I was almost depressed. I'm like, oh, please don't put me through this again. I did not get the album right away when it came out. I really did not want another Resilient or Shadow something experience. But morbid curiosity eventually got the best of me. It was on sale on some online site, so I did end up ordering it. We're back to owning CD copies. That's a good sign.
I ended up getting the vinyl cheap, so I'm like, oh, cool, Running Wild on vinyl, cheap. I'm getting it.
Yeah. Rapid Four-Way, this is the comeback album that he should have made instead of, Shadow shit. Is it a complete true return to the glories of old? No. Most bands don't really nail that down anyway. But this is in the spirit of stuff from the 80s and 90s. not quite on the same level, but yeah, like you said, Lee, there's actually a band this time. Imagine that. There's actually other people to play different instruments that they are good at to help the songs improve. And again, there's, a feel here that you're getting the boat, back in the water. This one is another one I've played a few times this week because I got it. I was pleasantly surprised when it came out, played it a lot, but I had shelved it. I hadn't taken it off the shelf in years. And I was kind of apprehensive. I didn't know what I'd think of it. I'm like, does this hold any water now or not? And it actually has held up pretty well. Again, to be clear, it's not Black Hand in material, but it's not at all Shadow something or another material either. You do get the sense on some of these tracks that, Rolf, he's not only borrowing ideas from, maybe Rod Stewart and other folks, he's also recycling some of his own ideas from old albums. Some of these tracks feel like, yeah, I think that riff's on Blazing Stone somewhere. So it's not the most original thing. And it's not back up to the glories of old. But this is an album I can happily listen to. I kind of, break it down this way. We had 10 albums in a row. Like I said, they're all like, B plus, A minus material. Then you've got 5 albums that are all below average to horrible. At this point, you're back somewhere in between. This is not A material, but it's probably at least, B or B minus material. So they've come back pretty nicely on Rapid Foray compared to where they've been for the past 5 albums, which is about 16, 20 years at that point. So Rapid Foray, I can give it a thumbs up. Marty, you got the cool vinyl press. What do you think of Rapid Foray?
Well, before this week, I kind of liked the record. I thought it was pretty good. But after a lot of Running Wild exposure therapy this week and going through all the worst albums, I think I was a little bit harder on it. Black Skies, Red Flags, good leadoff track. He's always pretty good at picking the leadoff track. But listening to it again after not touching it for years at this point, it's better. I'm just going to say that. I think you guys are, Alan, I'm with you on this. I think it's better. It's still not the glory days, No, we're not hoisting the Jolly Roger and going in and plundering a town here.
We're not under Jolly Roger. We're a couple of steps behind Jolly Roger, but we can at least see Jolly Roger from the deck.
We're maybe at the Jolly Roger factory making the flags. Maybe we're that.
Maybe that. Maybe we're adjacent to Jolly Roger somehow.
All right.
One to go.
Album 17, 2021, Blood on Blood. I remember when this thing came out, the YouTubers all kind of unanimously saluted this one. So I ran out and picked up a copy. And Lee, what did you think of this?
I liked it. I thought this was kind of a return to form, right? Not 100%, but again, the opening track, as you said, is awesome. It's a solid album. All right. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not doing anything different. And he's not ripping off Rod Stewart or Deep Purple on this album. It looks like he's regained a little bit of the old spirit that Running Wild had. I mean, it's a shame that, before it was like he had a great album and then he had an album not so good, but it was still good. Now he's like the good albums are popping up, or the good pieces are popping up less frequent, which, kind of, almost has the death knell of bands. But I mean, what's the thing here? Crossing the Blades, the one that came out as the single, I think is a seriously cool Running Wild song. It fit just as well on like a classic album tour. You know what I mean? I think that's a great song. It does have, and I don't think I've heard it on any other Running Wild, it does have a balladish song in the One Night, One Day. I don't, look, the album finishes strong, but also too, I believe this is the one where it's like is it like 18 minutes? This fucking last song on this thing? Or have I got this mixed up with fucking rapid foray, but I mean, I know the last song. No, sorry, it's a 10-minute song. At this point, like, I don't think we need 10-minute songs of anyone. I really don't. But for Running Wild, who are kind of barren of ideas, just to put out a 10-minute song that's really 3 songs broken up by like little interludes. It's brutal to try and finish this album, but not as brutal as Shitty Maker, right? It's still a little bit better. The production's good. I like the artwork. I like that it's clean and simple. I always like vibrant blue album covers. You know, I thought this was a strong finisher. I really did. I think a band like this needs the respect that, you know, maybe they didn't get on the last. To go out on Blood, I think is fitting. It's not the White Album, not Sgt. Pepper's, but it sure as shit ain't fucking Shitmaker. I'm trying to think of a different word for Shitmaker and maker of shit.
I love the fact that none of us can even get the name of it right.
Nah.
So, yeah, it's just become the running joke. Yeah, 'cause I honestly can't keep the name straight for that album. All right, so yeah, Blood on Blood, to date, their most recent album. Don't know if it'll be the last. We'll see. Yeah, this one has a lot of good things going for it. It does have some issues. For me, I prefer Rapid Foray over this one a little bit, but this is not a big step down. It's sort of a lateral step that doesn't have just quite as much pep for me. Songs sound good, production's fine. I feel like one issue with this one, a lot of the songs are very repetitive. They get in their lane. They find one beat and they stick to that one beat. Yeah, they repeat that chorus a few too many times, even by Running Wild standards. So it's not that the songs are bad, but it feels like they needed to, if they had edited them down just a little bit, or worked in. Again, the drummer's really tight, but almost too much so. It needs a little more, personality to punch it up a bit. It probably would improve some of the songs. Do we need another 10 or 11-minute Running Wild epic? Probably not. I think it's a decent sign, though, that he's at least trying to do those again. The previous album had Last of the Mohicans. This one has The Iron Times, which is about the 30 Years' War, one of the most brutal conflicts in Central European history from the past 500 years. So I don't mind that he's trying, even if it doesn't nail it, because again, it's in the spirit of when Running Wild was great. That's what he did on Pile of Skulls and Black Hand Inn and those albums. So his head's back in the right place. Mike said that in the chat a few minutes ago, that he's kind of finally, whatever was going on with him having to kind of, go back and try to relive his, teen years of just making plain rock albums. He got that fleshed out of his system. And so, he is kind of back on course. This album, again, it's too long. It needs to be trimmed down a bit, punched up maybe just a little bit. But it is decent. It's not one I'm going to reach for very often, because there's so many albums that are much better than it. But again, I've got no problems with it either. There's nothing to really rant about here, other than the fact that, you wish it would be better based on the old glories. But it's at least, a respectable Running Wild album. Marty, the final word on the final album.
If the Running Wild discography was a TSR Dungeons and Dragons Choose Your Own Adventure book, I think you would have got up to this chapter, Branded and Exiled, and said, got to the end of the page, do you want to hear what would have happened to Running Wild if they didn't put out Under Jolly Roger? You would go right to the end, because this to me sounds like a rock record. There's not a lot of Jolly Rogering going on here. It's a lot of palm muted crunch riffs. It's a solid record. Again, it's very long, but it just, if you took out all the pirate stuff, all those amazingly woven melody lines and choruses, and focused on stripped down German heavy metal in the vein of Accept and whatnot, that's this record. And I think it's a bit better than the album before it, Rapid Foray. I just I liked it a bit better when it came out, but listening to it this week, it was again a hard slog. I don't know. It's still a solid record, and I think Lee, you were telling me something about a new record coming.
Yeah, I found that today. Only because I was just looking for any type of info for some of those last albums. But yeah, they're looks like 2026. They're putting out something new, and I kind of have as much faith in it as I do in the new Kiss album. You know what I mean? It'll have a great opener. It'll have a song somewhere down the back that'll be cool. There'll be a shitty song. There'll be another shitty song, and there'll be another all right one. But I think at this point, like, I think he's proven himself well and truly as a, the band is a classic band. The guy has talent without a doubt. He can write a song. Unfortunately, I think he's lost somewhere. He doesn't know how to get that. And then, I mean, who would at that point, at 17 albums, like, what are you doing at this point? Like, you're just hoping to God that you can get it out. I mean, put it on vinyl, maybe. That's maybe the goal. But I don't think that it's going to be a classic album. I think it's hard for these guys at these ages to really capture what they were doing in their 20s and 30s. So, I mean, more power to him. I hope it's a quadruple platinum. I hope it's as big as Hysteria. I just don't think that, he deserves something, because I think they're the forgotten German, child of metal. I really do think they deserve more than what they got. And Creator got a lot, and Sodom got a lot, and they were kind of left in the dust. And it sucks that that's the case, because Creator sucked just as hard later on, and they still suck. Sodom has redeemed itself, but Sodom isn't perfect either. But yeah, this band, I think what spoiled it for them is that they had just as many shitty albums as they had good albums. I think that ruined them.
Your thoughts before we get into our rankings, Alan, on the whole catalog?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Running Wild, it was always a little out of phase with the rest of the German metal scene. We talked about it earlier. Like most of those bands Lee mentioned, with Creator, Sodom, Destruction, they had their down phase in the 90s. That's when they ran into trouble and had the identity crisis and made the weird albums. Running Wild blasted through the 90s and made some of their best stuff. But when those other bands were kind of getting, back on track in the early 2000s, like you said, Marty, when, all those bands were really starting to do their comeback things, that's when Running Wild kind of lost their plot and took them a while to sort of find their footing only on these past couple of albums. So at the end of the day, they are still one of my favorite bands. Again, 10 straight albums that I think are all extremely good.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. I don't know if I can name another band that has 10 consecutive albums that are this strong. Maybe
Kiss.
I'm sorry, what was that, Lee? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I sneezed and said Kiss, but that was
I love you too, Lee, but no, we're not going to kiss. Maybe you find 10 in a row in the Rage catalog. I'm not sure. Rage's catalog is great and very long, but I feel like, there's more ups and downs along the way. Overkill has a big down period in the 90s and 2000s where I'm not into their stuff as much. 10 albums. That is maybe Riot. Even Riot has a couple of weird ones in the 80s. I don't know if I can find another band that made 10 banger albums where I'm happy to play any one of the 10. And for that, even if we just, yes, the next 5 albums after that were not good. The 2 most recent albums are okay. They're fine, but 10 albums in a row, that is special. And Running Wild will always rank highly for that for me. The new album comes out, great. I'd love to, Devin on his Metal Tag video mentioned, that's the band he would love to see put out one more real banger before they hang it up. That was a great choice. I'd love to see that too, Devin. Will it happen? I wouldn't hold my breath, but Rapid Foray and Blood on Blood at least showed enough oomph that we might get a pretty good album. We might get a very good album. So I'm at least optimistic something good can come of it rather than feeling like Oh God, oh God, oh God, please don't do that again. So yeah, excellent band, fantastic band. They knew what they did well. They did it great for a long time. They lost their way for a bit, but it seems like late in the game, they've gotten themselves back on track a bit. Marty, your last thoughts before we rank?
Legacy band. And, you know, we talk about being a fan and loving a band for what they were. And Running Wild are one of, you know, Creator, they struggled with it. They lost identity. Celtic Frost struggled with it, lost identity, got it back. Running Wild, they did eventually settle into a formula, but the music they were creating was such a vibrant mixture of melody and catchiness. And I was okay listening this week to album after album after album. It was a bit much, but I was okay listening to, you know, maybe 3 or 4 albums that shared a lot of similar traits, because the songwriting is so good. The voice is so unique in the vocal department. It shows that sticking to your guns can work. It can work. It can propel you throughout the years, especially in, you know, music circles where, you know, music is up and down all the time. Like I said, everything's cyclical. Thrash is coming back now, you know, not that it was ever went away, but you know what I mean? The popularity, people's perception, the young get a hold of it like, holy shit, this rules. There's no telling me that, you know, some teenager picks up, my kid is getting into Running Wild now. How can you not listen to Death or Glory and not want to hear more Running Wild? You know what I mean? So even though I feel like I was a bit harsh on the latter part, the last 3 or 4 albums of the career, it is amazing what he's achieved. It is just such a long stretch of absolutely undisputable killer heavy metal. Absolutely great. And it is okay to falter. It's okay. And, you know, it's obvious he didn't really want to keep doing it, or felt he said all he could say with that humongous album run. And he just wanted to sail into his 60s praising his rock roots. You know what? Sail on, Commodore. That's what I have to say. But I'm interested to hear the new album. I'm always going to be curious what he's going to put out. I haven't loved the rock side, but I do love everything coming up to that. So with having said that, we need to pick each of us our top 3 and our least 3. We're going to do that. We're going to do the least 3 first, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, let's work through our least 3, and then we'll do our top 3. So Lee, what are your 3 least favorite Running Wild albums?
Oh, I had that already done, but then I was like, oh, I need to pick those first ones. But look, is this in order, or is this like just bottom 3?
No, your last.
Either way,
the 3 worst ones in your opinion.
All right. Well, without a doubt, Shadow Maker, shit maker, maker of shit, whatever that is. I hate that album. Victory's just a dog, and you can just pick one on this. I'm going to go ahead and say, I really wasn't ready for that one. So let's just go with Rivalry, because I thought the cover was shit ass. So Victory, the Rivalry, and Shadow Maker. Deplorable.
Right. Alan, your least favorite 3.
All right. Number 15 for me would be Victory. 16 for me is Resilient. And dead last by a country mile is Shadow Maker. Yeah, that's the title of it.
Sound out the big words.
I mean, I'm not, it's not a joke. I really can't remember the name of the album. It's just so off my radar. I know the first word is Shadow, and I always want the second word to be something like Autobot or Decepticon or Megatron, based on that stupid logo on the cover. But yep, those are my bottom 3. Marty, your bottom 3.
Bottom 3, number 15, The Brotherhood. Number 16, Rogues in Vogue. And number 17, Shadow Maker.
Yep. No, not too many surprises.
Not a surprise. Not a surprise.
Yep. All right, now let's do the fun part.
Yeah. Top 3.
Hey. Look, I'm not going to put in any of the first 2 as much as I want to, but I've had a lot of fun rediscovering some of these and listening to some for the first time. So my number 3 is Under the Jolly Roger. Then Black Hand In, and that fought with Blazing, so that one. And then my number 1, without a doubt, Death and Glory.
All right. Alan.
All right. My number, and likely, I'd really like one of the first 2 albums to be in the top 3. I ranked them all on paper. I won't go through them all. I have the first 2 albums as 4 and 5, so they're right outside the top 3. It was close. For me, number 3, it's an unusual pick, but again, it's an album I always go back to and always really enjoy. For me, 3rd is Masquerade. I think it's the last of the Essential albums. I think it has enough of that Black Hand In carryover to make it work. 1 and 2 are almost a coin flip, but I will say number 2, Death or Glory, and number 1 is the Black Hand In. That is as good a European power metal album as you'll ever hear. But Death or Glory, it's so close. If I play them tomorrow, there's a chance Death or Glory starts to inch back ahead of it. But those would be my top 3. Marty, what have you got?
All right. My number 3, Gates to Purgatory. It's up high on the list because of the nostalgic factor of it. It felt like I was hearing in a band, an album, a style that I had never really. I was into Venom, but these guys didn't sound like Venom. It was completely different. Number 2, Black Hand In. Love that record. Great song list. We've already went over it. Number 1, Death or Glory. It's a German / European classic. It's a treasure for sure.
Indeed.
And I want to say before we jump ship on this, if maybe the last few albums from Running Wild didn't really float your boat. There's a tribute band from Sweden, Blazing Stone.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm missing one, but you know what? These guys are kind of in the mid 90s realm of Running Wild.
Yep.
Vocally, they may have the spirit of Rolf, but they don't have the exact timbre to his voice. But this is solid. It's pretty. I think it's kind of missing the soul of Running Wild, but they're really emulating the style fairly well. So enough so where I bought a bunch of their CDs, and they're all really, really pretty solid. So.
Yeah, I liked Blazing Stone a lot for a while because, they started doing that project around the time Rolf was completely out of gas. So it's like, hey, okay, the Running Wild albums stink right now, but hey, the Blazing Stone albums actually kind of scratch that itch. If you want more, like Port Royal to, Blazing Stone, Pile of Skulls era material. But you're right. I mean, it's a really good sort of tribute band, but of course it's still a tribute band. It's not quite as good as the original thing. And with Rapid Foray and Blood on Blood being a bit better, I kind of feel like now it's like, well, there's not really a reason I need Blazing Stone in my life if Running Wild's going to make decent albums again. But they definitely picked up the slack when Ralph was slacking.
That's what a smart, level-headed person has his addictions all under control can say. Throw it out there and fine. But no, that's
the first time I've been described that way in a long time.
I ride hard with my monkey.
My monkey took the net off, apparently.
All right. Well, I do want to say, awesome. A lot of fun doing this with you guys. Great. Lee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody, go check out Warhammer666. 2 new EPs out. These 2. I can't hardly read in this light. All Hail the Mighty Destroyer and Silence That Make the Gods Shudder. And Hate Crimes. Check them out. Link in the description. Lee, do you have anything you want to shout out or plug before we jump ship?
Look, just the Joe Aberfest next Saturday. If you're in Houston, come down. It's a really cool show. I want to thank you guys for having me on here. It's way different from laying on the lounge screaming at Alan to being in front of Alan and listening and being told that you're wrong. It's really it's such a pleasure to be on a show to talk about stuff like this, because I don't have really anyone in my circle which I can nerd out on running wild. So this was really cool, and thank everyone in the chat for sticking around till 12:30. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Alan, do you have anything you want to throw?
Oh, just want to say, yeah, it's been really fun. Thanks to everybody in the chat. It's been lots of good comments, lots of trivia and tidbits I didn't know about the band have popped up, so it's been cool reading those. Big thanks to Lee for joining us. Yeah, this isn't bands you don't necessarily find a ton of people that want to nerd out about, so it was really awesome to have you on board tonight. And it's cool that, yeah, again, I'm glad actually you've got some different views on and opinions on the albums than I do, and Marty's got a different take on them too. I think that makes it a lot more interesting to have these conversations rather than if we just all three rank everything exactly the same way. Yeah, not as interesting then. So yeah, you brought up some really cool sleuthing points that folks weren't aware of. It's been a great conversation and a great time. So thanks to Lee for joining us, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. Marty, any show notes before we call it a wrap?
Reviews are going to be back online here soon. We're going to be doing those again. Wednesday's album club, TJ returns. He has picked Dio Last in Line, so we're going to be talking about a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And next Friday, author, writer for Decibel, Daniel Lake will be joining us. He wrote the book U.S. Black Metal for Decibel. And
I thought I had a copy of it here, but it's out of
have my copies upstairs. And we're going to be talking about our favorite U.S. black metal bands. So new guest. It'll be fun to have him on. He's an amazing writer and wrote a very exhaustive book on the subject. So
yep, looking forward to meeting him.
Absolutely. Lee, don't run anywhere. We're going to chat. Everybody in the chat, you all rule. Thank you so much for joining us. Even you diehard Europeans, cheers to you for staying up past bedtime. That's awesome. We appreciate all of you. Take care. See you next week.
Yo ho ho.
And a bottle of crack.